All right. I've just been talking into this mic for the last minute, thinking everyone could hear me. If you can hear me now, hit 1. If you can't hear me, hit 2. Either way, like the stream and tell me what you think. Yes. I see a few 2s. Clearly you can't hear me. Let me lower the volume of this Beethoven. Can you all hear me now? Glorious. Glorious! Okay. I'm not sure I laughed. That was kind of funny. But what are you going to do? Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. Let's shake off the dust from our boots. Let my Discord know that we are, in fact, joining now. Yeah, may have gotten a ping just now if you're in chat, but don't worry. It's all good. Let's switch things back. Hello and welcome to another one of these streams. It's been a week since we last met, since my last confession to you all. How y'all doing? We had a pretty eventful weekend, I'd say, with D23 and all that. Oh, got a super chat already. Let's hear it.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. Watched the Tony Bourdain movie Sunday and it starts with Tony stalking a girl to Cape Cod.
Ah.
Somehow I think JB and Wizzy'd see that and go, this is fine.
To Cape Cod, huh? Oh, jeez, that's wild.
At Blue Baron 6858 super chatted $2. Thanks for the spoiler from previous video, and
oh geez, I'm
rolling on the floor laughing.
I'm very sorry about that, but don't worry, I guarantee you at least this weekend we won't be having that. I think, I hope, maybe. We'll find out. Still, we have a lot to discuss this week. It's a chaotic week. And we had a massive event this weekend with D23. Who here also was like me and decided to follow the goings on at D23? And how many of you, by show of hands, were disappointed by what you saw? I admit, that panel about all the Disney rides I was watching that was streaming on Disney Plus, I think, oh, they're streaming it. It's got to be like a big event. And just so corny. Like, I thought it was very corny. There's some stuff I liked, but it was like, nothing like super new. A lot of it was like, oh, we're bringing back the Yeti. Oh, we're bringing back Figment, which is great. Or the Dreamfinder, whatever. And that's all well and good, but like, I don't know. They had to stop for like Neil Patrick Harris to have like a skit. The only skit I liked was when they had Glenn Close show back up, who I think is like the only live action actor for a Disney show where the guy, where she played an iconic Disney character and people are generally cool with it. I don't know. Well, thank you for being a member there, Ms. Vanessa Vengeance, for 17 months. Wow. I feel like critics can never be satisfied. Well, that's true, but it's so strange when you think about it. Like, back in the day, critics for movies were just, journalists who happened to know a thing or two about movies. Now online, everyone's a self-proclaimed critic, a self-proclaimed expert in the field. It's just wild, I don't know, man. I don't know. Out of curiosity, what's your take on the recent dislike towards telepaths in media? Well, I mean, I think in general, I'm going to be talking about this more in general in a bit, but, the thing is, a lot of these guys, they get really hung up on telepathy as a concept, right? They get super hung up on the idea of something being an invasive force inside of your brain. And I think my problem with that is that it's very it's very short-sighted. It's very strange. And it's a little obsessive regarding how we perceive telepathy as a concept. And a lot of people get like hung up on specifics, like, oh, it's an invasion of the mind, which it is. That certainly is. But I think we've unpacked the negative implications, but maybe overreact to it in fiction, depending on the context. I feel like telepathy is either not explored enough, and it's just kind of, oh, it's a superpower. You can use it to invade people's private thoughts, or we treat it like the most scandalous concept in the world, which it's a well-explored concept in fiction. So, again, it depends on the execution, I think. It's messy. Basically, people online do not have the appropriate reaction to things in media ever, especially when it comes to scientifically impossible concepts that don't really exist in real life. And we try to connect it to invasions that are logical or based like that. But then again, it's like, it's wonky. I think when I think of the dangerous telepathy in media, I think of scanners. Scanners is the best example of scary
At Rogue
telepathy.
Rebel 66 super chatted $4.99. I was very excited for all the stuff announced, especially for the Marvel Star Wars crossover comic next
curious
year.
about that.
Looks like so much fun.
That does look like fun. I am excited for that.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. And the other movie I saw, S&D at Camp Miasma. I want to see their brains liquefy trying to formulate opinions on a movie far outside their wheelhouse.
I still have to see that, but I love their work in general. Like, I saw the TV Glow, it was fantastic.
At Casual Gladio super chatted $5. Professional critics often see hundreds of movies a year, which I think creates a disconnect from the mainstream most YouTubers could never fathom.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Like, I've talked with Movies with Mark a few times about film. And, Mark, he might be in chat even right now for all I know. If you're in chat, say hi, Mark. But his experience with film is fantastic. He's seen some movies I've never even heard of. He was telling me about a bunch of movies that would I think when like the film festival circuit that hadn't come out yet a while back, and I was like really eager to see them. Or like maybe he had seen like an early screening. I'm not sure, but still.
At Cartoon 49 super chatted $5. Thoughts on Paramount could leave California for a red state over its antitrust fight of the merger if there's no settlement by October?
I think they're bluffing, and I have seen some people argue there's a possibility that they were always planning on leaving California anyway, and want to pin the blame on the deal if it doesn't go through. So I think they wanted to leave California anyway because they are super, super driven to be that tech company, Boise, Idaho, second Silicon Valley like world. Because a lot of those companies are moving out to other states because the tax is so high in California. Which, because they're so money driven, they want to save every cent they can, they keep running away to cheaper states. Cheaper in that sense being lower business taxes. And in doing so, it screws all the people over. It screws people living in California over because now they're without a job, and it screws the company over where people are willing to move with them because now some of the most talented crew and staff are no longer moving with them. They have to rehire with people with less experience.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $2. Oh hi, movies with Mark.
Is he in chat? I don't see him yet, but I have bad eyesight, so I can only see so much at once. So yeah, I think it's a complicated thing. It's not really gonna work out the way they hope, I think. I don't know. But I think the thing is it's all a farce ultimately. Like, they're gonna lose, I think. Because they're begging now the states to pay for the fines that Paramount initially agreed to, right? Paramount agreed to like all these I think it was $7 million a day if they don't get the deal signed by a certain date. They're gonna miss that deadline now because the trial's in March. So now they gotta pay for it. And it's like, well, you screwed yourselves over. You agreed to those terms. That's how you got the deal with Warner Bros. In the first place. And now that the deal is coming to roost, you don't want to pay the money? Like, come on, go screw yourself. It's a terrible mindset. Terrible, terrible mindset. Oh, man. But that being said, but I think, they screwed themselves. They shot themselves in the foot, exactly. And it's you don't make that kind of deal unless you're willing to pay for it, you know? That's it. That's simple. Now, one thing I did notice, I want to talk about a few things today before we go. No, Paramount did not think through any of these things. Paramount thought they would just push the way through, and because they're buddy with Trump, they would get the deal right through. But multiple challenges. It's not just. Can you turn up your mic a little bit? Is that low? Okay, cool. Let me turn my mic up a little bit. It's not just the states. It's not just the states. People think it's the states, but it's more than that. Let me raise up the mic up a little bit. It's not just the states. There's a lot going on. And what is going to happen is the Writers Guild's challenging them. It's the state challenge going to challenge them. And what's going to end up happening is it could easily just hurt the studio. No one knows what's going on. And there's some cowards who are going like, it's better to get a certain future and we should close the deal, but it's just going to hurt the artist in the long run. Just truly terrible. Truly, truly terrible. Anyway, a couple things I want to talk about. With D23, the one thing I really want to talk about is the cast for the X-Men. So the full cast has been announced. Full cast. And I am genuinely excited for this cast. I think it's really good. Oh, super chat coming in.
At Eustace Giwo super chatted $5. TBT, the IRL implications of telepathy are horrifying if you think about it. But one should remember it's just a show, so you should really just relax.
Exactly. The real life implications are terrifying. But we're not living in real life, and it's not completely explored what the real life implications of the telepathy are in the MCU yet. Jean Grey's powers are still very ill-defined at this point. That being said, though, I think we can confirm now, Jean Grey is in the MCU. It's very, very well established now. Jean Grey is an X-Man. As played by Sadie Sink. Now, from here on out, we get the rest of the cast. We get Kit Connor as Scott Summers, Christopher Abbott as Professor Charles Xavier, Samara Weaving as Emma Frost, Indy Navarrete Navarrete as Rogue and Maya Boyd as Storm, as well as Adam Driver playing Nathaniel Milbury, aka Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister. Now, what I find very interesting is that they're referring to Mr. Sinister as Nathaniel Milbury. Nathaniel Milbury is an interesting example there because that's the alias he used when running the this facility in America and experimented on mutants, including Scott Summers' great-great-grandfather, as well as the father of both Professor Charles Xavier and Juggernaut. So I'm wondering if they're going to be dealing with that in the MCU's past, as well as the idea that they're going to be doing some more experimentation on mutants at this stage. So we'll see.
At the Master 4863 super chatted $1.44. Not full cast, still no Beast, Iceman or Angel.
That's correct. There's no full cast yet. That is very true. Assuming to be other characters too, we might find out about as well.
At Jeff Pyatt 2K4 super chatted $1.
Thank you for the $1 super chat. Yeah, we don't know for sure yet, which is very interesting, I think. Will he still be campy? Campy, Mr. Sinister? It's possible. I'm hoping for a more frightening Sinister. I like it when he's creepier. I like Sinister when he's a little terrifying, but a fun, campy villain would be fun as well. I mean, I hope they don't bring Kelsey Grammer back again. Well, they brought him. I think they're going to kill him off in Doomsday. That's my theory. Anyway, I am really happy with this cast. I think all of them are fantastic. Maya Boyd and Indy Navarrete are the ones that got the most controversy, which I think is bizarre. Maya Boyd is, of course, a stage actor who... Don't mess around with stage actors. They're great.
At Itsuboy 562 super chatted $6.28. Finally got around to Ironheart after I watched your video from last week. Pretty good show, not the best either, but thank you for motivating me to watch something I wouldn't have normally watched, bro.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing too. It's like, it's one of those shows where like you don't expect, I don't think a lot of people expected to love it, but it was, I think, a lot better than people thought it was going to be initially. And I'm really happy that it turned out as good as it did. But again, we don't really, it's one of those things where like, when you watch it, you're like, okay, is this going to be as good as I think? Is it going to be good at all? And it turns to be pretty damn good. So, you know, I like it. I think it's really good. But I think it was very underrated because of the association with the comic, which is not that great. And B, there was no marketing put into it. It was just dropped on the Disney Plus. It was really unfortunate, personally. Yeah, I liked it more than I thought I did. I thought I would. I especially like how it ended. And I hope they paid it off in some way with the Champions show, movie they're working on. So we'll see. Anyway, Indy Navarrete is the one that I'm surprised people are upset by. Because people have been talking for a while now about how much they love Obsession, about how great Indy was in that film. And now that she's getting a big role, everyone all of a sudden is like, no, she's not going to be good as Rogue. It's going to be terrible. Like, come on, give her a chance. Let's see what she does. She's a fantastic young actress. She has range. Let's see what happens. And there's more casting to come. And I love how the director is the same director who did Thunderbolts, which is one of the best MCU projects in recent memory. I'm very excited. And I would be shocked, I'd be very shocked if these characters did not also show up in Secret Wars to some capacity.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $2. Think we'll see Rogue taking Carol Danvers' mojo?
I hope so. Not because I want to see Carol Danvers like descend into depression and alcoholism. I just want to see a good challenge for her. And Rogue is Carol Danvers' most iconic adversary in the comics. That and her inner self. And I think it'd be good to have the X-Men be an oppositional force to the various members of the MCU. We have Jean and Spidey, obviously, but I think we're also going to get Storm and Black Panther in the upcoming Black Panther 3. I do think we're going to get Rogue and Carol Danvers at odds with each other. And I think that will help inspire fear of mutants in the MCU, personally. Thank you for 11 months there. Umanada Rules. I just don't want a new Wolverine at the moment. Let this new cast shine before Logan takes over again. Agreed. I hope Logan's not cast. I would like a bit of a while before we get into the Wolverine, honestly. I don't want to see Wolverine for a little bit of time, unless it's X-23. I wouldn't mind seeing X-23 show up. I'm pretty sure Hugh Jackman as Old Man Logan might show up. But I don't want to see Logan in a film unless it's fighting the Hulk. That's the only one I want to see, him fighting the Hulk. Other than that, don't want to see it. Not after Secret Wars anyway, because he's going to show up in Doomsday and Secret Wars probably, so.
At Alexander Despien's Brassard 9109 super chatted $3.61. Wait, that sinister plot was hinted in New Mutants. A bad film but a decent episode of Buffy. Are they reusing the abandoned Fox plans?
Well, Sinister wasn't just teased in New Mutants. He was also teased in X-Men Apocalypse, Logan, and Deadpool 2. But never showed up. Now, I don't think it's going to be that version of Essex, but I think it's going to be implied that maybe he might be a multiversal variant even. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping it'll be fun, though. I'm excited for that because he is such an iconic villain. And also kind of inadvertently responsible for the eradication of mutant genes, if Logan's to be believed, with Essex Corp's collection of the mutant gene.
At Ron Quixote super chatted $5. So is this Jester Bell lady a right-wing kind of, I am just a reasonable non-political commentator, it's everyone else who's woke now, movie critic?
Oh, is this your first time seeing a Jester Bell video? Well, if so, I apologize. No, Jester Bell identifies as female Frodo Baggins. She's very proud at this point. Anyway. Jesus, it's so wonky. Anyway. Let's bring up the topic of the day. There's a few of these, actually. So, real life fake wizard. Okay. Let's talk about this for a second, shall we, folks? Okay. So, I'm going to also record some of this. Oh, cool. Thank you.
At Corpus Leo XLV super chatted $5. Marvel really wanted to induce the most panic possible with this X-Men cast.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what they were doing.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm going to record a little bit of this, guys, only because I want to use a couple clips of this, of my reaction to it for a video I'm working on about Jean Grey as well. But, that being said, say hi to YouTube, everyone. This probably get cut out. I'm only going to use chunks of this, not the whole thing. So, folks, it looks like Real Life Fake Wizard here has a few videos on the topic. Quite a number, actually. There's one right here from 4 days ago. Where apparently morally gray writing is anti-human. Marvel's morally gray characters are evil. And every franchise is dead thanks to Disney Plus, apparently.
At Zypher 8677 super chatted $5. X3, Future Past, Logan, Deadpool 3, now Doomsday. I'm tired of saying goodbye to the Fox X-Men. At what point is it elder abuse bringing Stewart out? Oh, I'm sure after Doomsday, most of the Fox characters will never show back up again, except for probably Deadpool and Wolverine. I think they're safe to say they're coming back. But movie theaters are in big financial trouble, apparently, and Spider-Man's on the front here. Real Life Fake Wizard is one of those guys who has increasingly started to irritate me. Like, his videos get, they are very, very, very messy. In that they obviously are grifting, and they're presenting an argument that all of Hollywood is out to ruin your lives. And Jester Bill's right alongside with them. They're actually perfect for each other. So I'm actually not surprised that they've decided to collaborate. Who the fuck is Real Life Fake Wizard? Well, Real Life Fake Wizard is another channel. We've talked about him before in the past. He's essentially, surprisingly, he's actually a satanic panic kind of guy. He's very religious, I can tell. He thinks all companies work for the devil,
and that they're corrupting our souls.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $5. Affleck from Jay and Silent Bob. Number one's talking real people, they're fictional characters. Fictional characters. Am I getting through to you at all?
They're completely fictional. That's the thing. None of these characters are real. The idea that these are somehow like reflective of real life, reflective of reality, especially in a superhero story, which is ultimately a heightened reality in and of itself, it's completely ridiculous. It's silly. It's truly, truly silly. And everything that they do here is increasingly silly. I don't get the mindset. But I digress. Let's just dive right into this first video and see what they have to say. Let me adjust the screen because I have it myself way over too far. Here we go. And I'm going to pause supers briefly, although I will, of course, allow them to come back on. Leave super chats if you want. Of course, I do recommend making super chats that can be more evergreen. So we can get to them, but I digress. Let's take a listen.
Hello, everyone. I'm the real life fake wizard. I'm joined with me today is... Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Jester Bell, aka female Frodo Baggins, aka Teresa, but no one on YouTube calls me by my real name, so that's where you're at.
What's your background with X-Men?
I think I've been an X-Men fan as long as I've been a fan of like Marvel. Getting into like the MCU is what introduced me to the comics and finding them from there. And like, I watched like X-Men the animated series, X-Men Evolution, and then getting into the comics from there. And like reading stories that I'd never really dived into and realized, wow, these characters like have so much potential that we have never realized on screen before. And like the interpersonal relationships and I even like it from the comics. I like the interpersonal relationships between the characters and the development even better than anything that I've seen on screen with like the Avengers, for example. But unfortunately...
Okay, let's pause right there for a second. So Jester Bell has admitted that she never read X-Men comics before the MCU. I have seen enough videos from Jester Bell where I genuinely do not believe that she's read any comics based purely on, or at least has very limited experience with them, even though she used to write for a comic review site. Wait, why are you all writing X? Oh, press X to doubt Jester Bell. Yes, exactly. Now, I believe Jester Bell likes the interpersonal relationships with the X-Men. I say that because she primarily ships Rogue and Gambit. She's very happy whenever Rogue and Gambit are in the same space together, which is okay. So that's something. If you ship those characters, that's fine. And I don't want to make it sound like I think that if you've only enjoyed the X-Men thanks to the MCU or read comics thanks to the MCU, that's necessarily bad. We don't gatekeep here. If you got into comics thanks to the MCU, that's a net positive. Just over here. The MCU has helped a lot of people get into these characters. And if that's why you like the characters, hell yeah, that's fantastic. The problem is that she has said nothing she actually likes about the X-Men. If you listen to what she says she likes the interpersonal relationships more than the Avengers, and then doesn't elaborate anything else. Like, here's the thing. I can tell you what I love about the X-Men. I love how they're characters who represent these oppressed people, who are put into a scenario where they themselves are struggling. You can't keep in mind with the X-Men. These are characters who are facing off against some of the worst bigotries in history. They are oppressed at all corners by the government, their fellow man, even other mutants. They're experimented on in bulk, and yet still come together for communal safety. They come together for a sense of community. That's some great stuff. However, I don't really think she understands why the X-Men are so great. She doesn't explain the role of mutants, the idea of them defending a world that hates and fears them in this situation. Nor she named any specific characters in this video. I didn't know about the Rogue and Jester Bell thing outside of all that. But that's all well and good. Let's hear what her concerns are.
Like, I really delved back into X-Men, and it made me an even bigger fan than I ever was, but it was kind of the worst time for it because we're gearing up for MCU X-Men. I'm enjoying these characters like, oh, this is an aspect that hasn't been tainted or tarnished yet. Like, I can just enjoy them and like just keep my fantasies of what these could possibly be. And then now I'm seeing, like, and not to get ahead of myself, what the MCU is doing, and it's so painful to have even more of an understanding of how good these characters can be, and then to just see what they're doing so far.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so no specifics given again. She loves how good these characters are in the comics, and now she has she's afraid of what's going on. She's hurt by it. She can't believe they've done wrong by these characters so badly, and yet doesn't actually explain what it is she's afraid of losing with these characters. And in this whole video, because I did skim ahead with this one, future videos in this video I haven't seen yet, but I digress. The thing is, we're being told right now that we lost something valuable and important, that the MCU is going to ruin it, and as a result, we get vague posting. It's vague posting. I don't know what she's missing. So, I digress. Anyway, that's the super chats keep playing. Are they loading? Okay, well, super chats. Oh, here we go. Excellent.
At Agent Spaniel 4428 super chatted $5. The Void is also a telepath but willingly tortures people but doesn't get scrutinized like Jean or Wanda.
100%. The Void is another example. Hell, not just the Void, Loki and Killmonger too. Loki is romanticized. So's Thanos, for that matter, even though they kill massive numbers of people. I mean, hell, even in Thor, the first one, Loki still tries to detonate the core of a planet. You know, like he tries to detonate the core of the Frost Giant world. That's still destroying an entire planet. And that's his first appearance, and he's romanticized. Meanwhile, Jean Grey... Okay, let's ignore the fact the writers said that Jean Grey didn't kill anyone. Let's ignore that part right now. There's no visible bodies, that no one dies on
At
screen.
Bunny
There's no body.
Concubus super chatted 30 cents. These people should read the Krakoa era.
Keep that in mind. That might be relevant later on, though I'm not entirely sure that Jezebel knows what Krakoa is. But we'll see. Anyway, pausing super chats again. Let's get right back into the video.
it's gnarly what's happening. Like, after all of these years of being like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine, like, oh, it would be so cool to have like the X-Men cross over with the Avengers. Like, what if everything was in the same canon? Well, we're finding out now what that's going to look like, and it is, well, terrorism. It seems like the Sentinels have a point. Henry Gyrick might have a point, because oh my gosh, our introduction to Jean Grey with
so a minute in, the Sentinels have a point. How dark of a point is that? And mind you, they're upset that that Jean Grey is a terrorist. Their point of being pissed off is that Jean Grey is a terrorist. Which is a weird thing to say. So here's the thing about the X-Men in general. The X-Men are revolutionaries, right? They always have been. Even back with the Jack Lee, Steve Ditko comics, before they established the intentionality of the mutants as civil rights characters, as freedom fighters, as revolutionaries, the X-Men have existed in a revolutionary field. 14 issues into the X-Men run, the Sentinels first show up. And when the Sentinels first show up, we get a sense that humanity is afraid that mutants will rebel against them, that mutants will hurt them. And they are ultimately then fighting government organizations, scientific institutions, because those are the ones targeting them. These are characters who get experimented on genetically, who get beaten, tortured, mass killed, lynched. These are figures who are subject to some of the cruelest acts of violence in comic book history, and they're the terrorists. They are terrorists. Because There's the old phrase that I've always loved. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And it's true. What someone sees as a terrorist, another person might see as a savior. And this is a common phrase. When you grew up with the war on terror, it was very much a common refrain that, while we in America see certain groups as terrorist groups, the people who join them join because of other reasons. Some selfish, but some believe in the cause that they're fighting for. And that moral ambiguity is what makes conflict so difficult to figure out. Because how do you address the root cause that sparks people to join a terrorist group? How do you address the justified things that drive people to such violence? It's painful stuff. We got some trolls in chat. Where we got them? What do we got here? Who is trolling around? All right, I'm going to get my mods in there. One sec. Cool. Just making sure he's all well and good. Okay, cool. I just sent a note to my mods in case so someone can take a look at the chat to make sure there's no trolling here. Fair. Anyway, let's do some super chats. Oh, hang on. I just saw one right there. Hey there, buddy. Hide. Bye there, buddy. Okay, let's let some super chats play.
At Blue Baron 6,858 super chatted $2. Why do these lame critics have to be so damn weird?
They're all very weird is the problem.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted
Maybe normal level
$5.
shit.
Somehow I don't think that Trask, Gyrick, Kelly, etc. was right, is going to reach the same iconic and raw levels as Magneto was right.
Well, that's because people actually feel like Magneto is right. In many ways, he is the example of one man's terrorist.
At Campbellzilla super chatted $5. These two think mutants attacking the government is terrorism, but I'd wager their thoughts on January 6th are that it was justified.
Disturbingly, they probably would argue that. Losing an election is reason to attack, the institutions of power. But, having being hunted down by the government, having your family kidnapped from you, that's just, why are you complaining about that? Horrifying to consider. But anyway, pausing supers real quick. Let's dive back in.
The Spider-Man Brand New Day has been wild. All right, so take us through, you see Spider-Man Brand New Day. Did you know of any spoilers going into it?
I knew that Jean Grey was going to be in the movie. I'd known that for many months. I think I was a bit in denial about what they were going to do with her because I heard that she was going to be responsible for blowing up the Hulk. And I, in my head, I thought, well, that's going to be pretty villainous. I can't, unless like it's an accident or something. And I guess I just kind of put it from my mind, like, no, they wouldn't turn her into a villain like that. So
Did you just say she's going to blow up the Hulk? You say that she thought... I get what she probably meant to say. Like, oh, she's going to trigger the Hulk's transformation. But you know who else also triggered the Hulk's transformation? Wanda. Wanda also did it. Only unlike Jean Grey, when Wanda made the Hulk transform, it was intentional. She actually went out and tried to make the Hulk go violent and go nuts, as opposed to in this movie, where she tries to make the Hulk target a government organization that had kidnapped her sister. She needed muscle to get into damage control headquarters, and the Hulk's perfect muscle. It's only when she loses control of the Hulk that the collateral damage factor comes into play. A lot of what Jean Grey does is that collateral damage, a carelessness with human life. Most of the worst stuff she does is due to her indifference to what happens around her, or carelessness what happens around her, and that puts people at risk. Collateral damage is a big thing with her, and some of that collateral damage was the Hulk losing his mind, losing control over the other guy. becoming the Savage Hulk once again. Yeah, so it's not good. It is a bad thing to do. But the movie frames it as bad. Also, again, it's pretty villainous to make the Hulk go nuts. Well, what about Wanda? Wanda did that in Age of Ultron, and then was redeemed essentially by the film's end. So again, there's a precedence for villains with the ability to influence minds and perspectives, making the Hulk go on a rampage. Only difference is that when Wanda did it, the damage was far higher than when Jean did it. When Jean did it, one building, one government building, was damaged. No known casualties. However, when Wanda did it, the Hulk went on a rampage through an entire city, causing massive amounts of damage. Billions upon billions of dollars of property damage in a public sector, as opposed to damage confined to one government building, which was already designed to deal with superpowered threats. The building was handling the punishment it was designed to take, essentially. Let's let some super chats play real quick. It's loading event. It's loading slowly. Thank you.
At Watchful Skunk super chatted $5.69. The wizard wears a LARPer's outfit which is very befitting of him.
Yes.
And yet I'm supposed to everything he says seriously.
He's a big LARPer. I've done enough videos to know he doesn't know what he's talking about half the time.
At Zypher
Or acts like he knows what he's talking about,
8677 super chatted $2. Villain Jean? That would never happen in comics.
I know, Jean Grey has never been the villain in film or comics
At
ever.
Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $5. Also, with the exception of Hulk, people don't remember Jean controlling them. Conversely, everyone Wanda controlled in her show were quite aware.
Exactly. They were completely under the influence of Wanda. It's not like a
At
blackout.
Concerningly Wise Alligator super chatted $9.17. This supposedly super religious satanic panic type dresses up as a wizard who's himself a reference to Odin and collabs with someone named after Jezebel?
Yes, yes.
Betty's not even genuine about that.
He really isn't. I'm thinking a lot of religious types online, I feel, are very...
At the Bunny
performative.
Perspective super chatted $2. Jean and Spidey, wizard and jester. Am I right?
I'm scared to think of the implications there, but you're probably not wrong.
At Itsuboy 562 super chatted $6.28. Correct me if I am wrong PLZ, but the BND take on Jean did seem a bit of a fresh take and was a bit different from comics.
It is
Love
different.
the adaptation and what it did for mutants in the MCU going forward though.
It is different, but it's different in a way that makes sense given where her
At
character might have
Corpus
gone
Leo
without
XLV
guidance.
super chatted $2. Ind Navarette saying, Suga, will go so hard.
Oh my god, that is going to be a lot of people. You know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen when Indy Navarrete goes like sugar and all that in Southern accent? A lot of lesbians are going to be awakened. That's going to be a lot of queer women's awakening. And you know it. Anyway, pausing supers. Let's just dive right back into this video. But you know a lot of lesbians are going to go crazy when Indy Navarrete can go like all sugar and all that.
Understood that she was going to be in this movie. I understood that we were going to be getting a different version of the character than we had seen before, and that kind of adds up with Kevin Feige's whole approach to Marvel at this point, which we can talk about. I did not know that she was going to be an out and out like evil terrorist villain. I thought that maybe she would be misunderstood, like completely misunderstood in this movie and framed for something like that. I did not expect her to be straight up evil.
I think of it like, hey,
here's the thing. Straight up evil. Straight up evil. Framed for something versus straight up evil. So here's the thing I don't understand. Why is it that we act as though fictional characters cannot do bad things, even if they're the characters we sympathize with? Also, evil and terrorist. Again, the problem here is that an evil character is pure malice, right? Evil is a strong word. I'd say there's very few good MCU villains who would count. There's very few evil. there's very few MCU villains I'd count as purely evil, right? There's, I think, increasingly few. The ones that are like evil tend to be a little bit more exaggerated, I think. I don't know. I think that ultimately in the MCU, Green Goblin, that's evil, you know? I'd say the Goblin personality anyway is evil. I'd say a character like Hela is gloriously evil. It's a very fun evil character. I would say a character like, even honestly, Kang, given what we saw of him so far, pretty malicious guy. But with this, it's like you get these very generic descriptions of, oh, she's evil because of what? What did she do that's evil? What did she really do that was evil? There's the worst thing she does, in my opinion, is the whole MJ scene. That is ethically wrong. That's awful. However, that's not necessarily that's not necessarily like irredeemably evil, I don't think. I think she does some that is bad. It's vile. I think it draws a good parallel between Brand New Day and Obsession. Again, with Indian F. Ready, it's interesting. But I think that personal act of cruelty is way fouler than much of the property damage she's doing to damage control. And you get why she does what she does. She's extremely detached from her humanity. She's very divorced from seeing people like people. They're like NPCs, like video game characters to her. They're like objects to control and manipulate. And that's where her actions kind of come into focus. It's very bad. But a lot of what she does beyond that is more a symptom of kind of losing touch with her humanity. Because she is such a powerful telepath and can body hop, her perception of how she acts is different. I would argue the MCU Mysterio is evil too. I agree with you on that one. And petty. Yeah. I think Mysterio is probably the most evil character Spider-Man fights in this version of his character. I think even the Green Goblin, there's this weird sense of fair play with him. Mysterio is just pure petty and disgusting. Oh, High Evolutionary is another one too. Yeah. I mean, let's some super chats play.
At RKM_Darko super chatted $5. I don't understand the romanticization of martyrdom, as if it's the only justifiable action oppressed people can take against their oppressors.
Exactly. I agree. And the X-Men explore what happens when they're not martyrs.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $5. When MCU does Dark Phoenix, will grifters call Cyclops a simp beta still pining over his gene? Or, talking last for days video will they go, my man?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm thinking they'll call him a simp.
At Amari V super chatted $5. Am I the only one who thinks that the whole Jean Grey thing from B&D will be used to justify anti-mutant hatred with humans in future MCU films?
Oh no, I think it will. I'm positive it will, actually. Even though it's already been going on.
At Dylan Martin 2843 super chatted $1.44. Is the MCU high evolutionary evil?
100%. 100% agree with that. Yeah, Ego gave his wife cancer. Yeah, Ego the Living Planet, also pretty evil, not gonna lie. Pretty bad guy, Ego.
At RKM_Darko super chatted $2. Far From Home was just a Nightcrawler sequel.
Yeah, right. And I'm gonna pause this real quick. Let's keep going.
Hey, that's Sadie Sink playing Max from Stranger Things. I don't see that as Jean Grey. Like,
why not?
It's so not the original character. Whether
why not
it be like what I've read from the comics when I've read the comics, or X-Men Evolution, or the '90s show. It's like we're not even close with how. I mean, the attitudes are off, but like the she's not the Phoenix in this movie, but she acts like Dark Phoenix.
She's not the Phoenix, but she acts like the Phoenix. Okay, that's how you know he's a LARPer. Okay. I want to explain this to everyone in a way that every single person here will understand. The Phoenix is not Venom. All right? The Phoenix isn't, oh, Eddie and the symbiote come together making a new entity. No. The Phoenix is Jean Grey. Jean Grey and the Phoenix are not separate entities. They are the same entity. They both made each other. It's like Barry Allen and the Speed Force. Barry made the Speed Force gave Barry the power to make the Speed Force. It's like they are one and the same. Jean Grey and Phoenix created each other in the white-hot room outside of space and time. The Phoenix that has always existed in the Marvel Universe as this cosmic force is Jean Grey. They are the same thing. The Dark Phoenix is just Jean Grey with her brain meddled by the Hellfire Club. But that's also still Phoenix. That's still Jean. It's just Jean with her. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing where the id is now taking control. Not an evil version of Jean Grey. It's just Jean Grey without inhibition. As a cosmic force of death and rebirth. Violent death and rebirth, but death and rebirth all the same. So Jean Grey is the Phoenix. The Phoenix is Dark Phoenix. And the Dark Phoenix is Jean Grey. They are all the same person. All of them are the same thing. Are we in alignment there? So when anyone says, oh, Jean Grey didn't do it, the Phoenix did it. That's Jean Grey. So in the comics, when Jean Grey, as the Phoenix, destroys a star and kills 5 billion people, Jean Grey killed 5 billion people in the comics. They are all the same. Is everyone on the same page now? So when Real Life Fake Wizard here says, oh, Jean Grey was acting like the Phoenix, not like Jean Grey, that's ridiculous. So you get the sense now of why I think this is the most ridiculous thing I've heard anyone say. If a comic fan says that Jean Grey and the Phoenix are different, they are not different. It's the same person.
Like, you know, there's kind of no excuse here.
Kevin Feige's entire approach to the MCU for characters that he doesn't like, for the characters that he seems to have ownership of, like, for example, Deadpool is more of a Ryan Reynolds thing. He has a lot of say in that character, and, like, Sony has a say in...
Ryan Reynolds does not have more say on the direction of Deadpool than Kevin Feige does. Kevin Feige is the guy who runs everything. If Ryan Reynolds had complete control over Deadpool, the film would not have been languishing in development hell for as long as it did.
In Spider-Man, and it seems like from what I'm reading, Tom Holland is now getting a lot of say on the character of Spider-Man. Whenever we go to, like, Kevin Feige's Marvel characters, it seems like he always has it in his head, I need to do different versions of these characters from the source material. Like for Blade, for example, that just got completely canceled.
Okay. I'm going to stop right there. Justabel. What the actual fuck are you talking about? Kevin Feige, for years, was a producer on almost every single Marvel product that was coming out for a very long time. Kevin Feige was involved with the original X-Men films as well. He was involved with all of them all the way back to the first movie. And he has always loved the X-Men. He continually fought on set for the X-Men to be more aligned with their comic originals. And Bryan Singer turned him down. And then Brett Ratner turned him down. There are scenes from this movie that take iconography from the comics, direct comic covers, and recreate them. To argue this movie ignores comics completely is ridiculous. The big difference between Jean Grey in the MCU and Jean Grey in the comics is that the Jean Grey in the comics was watched over by Professor Xavier from a young age, and this version was not. This version was alone and left to wander the earth, and the other version was under the watchful eye of Professor Xavier. It's a look at what would have happened to Jean if she received no one in her life to love her. So, what she's about to spew out is her own conspiratorial nonsense, and she's going to take rumor regarding the Blade film at face value. Are these rumors accurate? Maybe. But they're rumor, but she acts like they're fact. Several rumors spread around the MCU films, including a bunch of rumors and leaks about Spider-Man Brand New Day, and plot leaks and all that, including stuff about the Jackal. None of it ended up being true. So whenever you're online, you have to take rumor with a grain of salt, unless it's a little bit more solidified. There's some supposed leaks regarding Doomsday that have come out. I'm not going to repeat them here because they might be true. But those leaks have kind of had some backup from footage, from pictures that have also leaked. So that has more legitimacy to it. Not so much anything else. They were leaks saying we were going to get Man-Spider in the finale. It's all going to be a big old fight with Man-Spider fighting another big bad. Didn't happen. There were leaks saying that Tombstone was going to come back with the symbiote in Brand New Day. Didn't happen. Never was going to happen. So, yeah. Yeah, all these guys also believed that Elliot Page was playing Achilles in the Odyssey. Didn't happen. None of it happened. It's not true.
Sold after 7 years. It's so easy to just go like Blade killing vampires. He was like, no, we can't just have him killing vampires. And then you hear the things from behind the scenes. It's like it became like set in the 1930s, which clashed with Sinners, so they couldn't do it anymore. And then they...
No. That's a lie. That's a lie. It didn't clash with Sinners. Sinners used the costumes from a proposed Blade movie, which would have taken place in the past. And they just used the costumes. Didn't clash with Sinners. Sinners was made after the Blade ideas already fell through.
They had it like starring Blade's daughter, where Blade was regulated to like the fourth lead, and it's like a journey of self-discovery for his daughter.
No, that was an idea pitched, apparently, according to rumor, not one that ever got to the scripting phase. There's no evidence even with a script for that idea, as of yet.
And that's what I feel is happening with the X-Men. And like, I am not a fan of the fired X-Men 97 showrunner Beau DeMayo.
Neither am I. He tried DMing me on Twitter one time. That was a weird occurrence. Oh yeah, if you ever mention Beau DeMayo on Twitter, he will go in your DMs and try to argue with you. That's a real thing. A grown ass man with a professional resume tried to do with a YouTube critic. Yeah, it's a true story. Yeah, he tried to DM me. I'm like, oh, dude, what are you doing? Go away. I don't want to talk to you. Talented writer. That thing too online. People don't realize this. Sometimes your interactions on the internet just make people uncomfortable. Same thing with the Devil May Cry writer for that cartoon. He tried to message me too. I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk to you.
I watched him enough and what he posts online. I'm not a fan of him. I don't entirely trust him. I do think a broken clock is right twice a day. And just because like he's disgruntled doesn't mean he hasn't heard things behind the scenes at Marvel.
Why would the guy in the animation department know anything about how the live action film department's going when Marvel typically keeps that stuff isolated? It's like if you work for a big conglomerate, you don't really know what the other teams are working on unless they're actively talking about it. With projects like the MCU films which are under such secrecy, you're not going to hear about it in another department at all. It's like saying, oh yeah, the comic book guys know what the movie guys are doing. They don't talk. They really don't talk.
He did say that like Kevin Feige's mindset for the X-Men is like audiences don't want like a comic accurate X-Men. They want us to do our new takes on the X-Men. And I think that rings.
Um, even he didn't say that. Even he didn't say that. He said he was interested in hearing their take on X-Men 97. And if that were true, why would they so often adapt storylines from the comics? Joe DeMayo's season 1 of X-Men 97 adapts multiple specific storylines from the comics. It adapts the whole Genosha storyline. It adapts Inferno with Madeline Pryor. It adapts Magneto ripping the adamantium out of Wolverine's body. It adapts, the E for Extinction storyline. The one with Bastion. Bastion? Yeah, Bastion Sentinel. It adapts a lot of specific things. So yeah, it's directly adapting storylines from the comics. You can't say Kevin Feige did not want you to adapt the comics when discussing a property that directly adapted the comics. And then season 2 also did stuff similar, adapting storylines from the comics as well. Multiple ones, including having freaking Kang the Conqueror show up early on. Anyway, let some super chats play. There's just no evidence for what she's talking about, because she's lying.
At Revenovan 300 super chatted $1.99. They also think Homelander is the hero of the boys.
Jesus Christ. Of course they do.
At Skywalker Club 9639 super chatted $4.99. She may do some real terrible shit like the old guy who we don't know the fate of, but she's not Hunter Zolomon or Eobard Thawne evil. It's overblown.
Yeah, very overblown. Very overblown.
At Agent Spaniel 4428 super chatted $5. Jean and the Phoenix are like the Sentry and the Void.
Exactly. Oh, well, actually, a little more complicated than that. With the Void in the comics,
at Dr. Zulu Gaming super chatted $3.61. Jean Grey, even with the Phoenix's power, still killed 5 billion people. This was her reason why she wanted to die at the end of the Dark Phoenix saga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. As opposed to maybe 2 or 3 people in the
At
films.
David Deister 4145 super chatted $10. I don't know how Kevin Feige puts up with this bull from people like Jester Bell or Nerdrotic.
I mean, I think he finds a way. I think how Kevin Feige deals with it is at the end of a long day, he sits back and lays down on a giant bed of billions of dollars earned by his movies and finds a way to sleep at night somehow with that. I think that's how he does it. Anyway, back to this.
It's true for this. And it's very confusing to me why he would think that, why he would be confident in that after, Blade fell apart. Fantastic Four, it's a one and done movie. They're not going to be able to justify a sequel. There wasn't enough interest in that direction.
They won't be able to justify a sequel for Fantastic Four, and the Fantastic Four is the center of the next Avengers film. So I don't know if Jessica Bell realizes this, but when the MCU first started with Phase 1, there wasn't a lot of interest for Thor or Captain America either. In fact, Thor and Captain America and Incredible Hulk did not make a lot of money at the box office. In fact, I believe Fantastic Four actually outgrossed it, even accounting for inflation. Fantastic Four made a profit, and it made a profit in part because a lot of its costs were countered by brand deals before it even came out. That did reduce the amount of money that they spent on the film. Now, Hollywood accounting will make the film sound like it didn't make as much money as it did, but it still made a profit. It still made back its production budget and the marketing budget, even accounting for international cuts and all that. And the fact that it was such a good balance of money in terms of international territories proves it was pretty decent. Now, did Fantastic Four end up on the top 10 films of the year? No, it did not. I don't think any superhero film, I don't think Superman made the top 10 of last year. There's a lot of good movies that came out last year. But that being said, these films are not sudden hits. Very few are, and most of the ones that were big hits were building off of momentum from previous films. Fantastic Four, I guarantee you, after this film, will have more momentum behind it. I would be shocked if there's not another Fantastic Four film made, as well as shocked if Fantastic Four doesn't show up in any capacity moving forward.
Direction. It's just all the failure of Marvel. It just like astounds me of the confidence that he would have to like, no, people want my own takes on these characters, especially since like people are pointing out he's really hyping up Doomsday. We've got X-Men in comic accurate outfits. But
so wait, how can it be not comic accurate if they're in comic accurate outfits?
Why would he think that people really want the comic accurate outfits and then not the personalities?
When you look at the X-Men now, it's we're not going to do comic accurate. It's like, well, then we just stick with the Fox X-Men because that wasn't entirely comic accurate at all. At all.
And that was also Kevin Feige producing it. So what's your point?
Let's go back to Black Leather again. You want to crack jokes about being comic accurate.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We should go back to the X-Men films from that era when Jean Grey killed how many people in Dark Phoenix? Like how many people did not do Dark Phoenix? I'm sorry. In X3, how many people did Jean Grey kill who were named characters in Dark Phoenix? In X3, I keep saying Dark Phoenix. They're both bad. The Dark Phoenix and X3 are both terrible. I would argue, honestly, that X-Men 3 is one of the worst superhero films ever made. By a lot. And if the video I'm planning for this week gets done on time, you will see why I think X3 is the worst X-Men movie ever. I think it's the worst one. Maybe Dark Phoenix and X-Men Origins Wolverine are its competition, but I think that X3 is one of the worst superhero films ever made. Here's the thing also, and I gotta ask you this too. Dark Phoenix is horrible as a movie, as a story. I think X3 is worse ethically. I think X-Men 3 is one of the most ethically unsound films ever made. I think on a moral level, X3 is bad. Like, I think Origins Wolverine is not good either. But it's stupid. It's a dumb action film. X3 is morally bad. Like the what it's about, its actual themes and ideas are, I think, deeply corrupt and deeply foul. And I think it's one of the most unethical movies in the superhero genre ever. By a lot. I think it's terrible. I think it's a foul movie. Truly, truly foul. There are very few films get me angry. X3 gets me angry. Anyway, super chats are piling up. Let's get into it.
At Otto Johnny super chatted $5. BTW with how young Jean and Scott are no love triangle with Wolverine.
Well, that's always been weird. That's always been a weird thing.
At CleverPsych115 super chatted $5. Feige will eventually find a way to do his death stare at these people, and that allows him to sleep at night.
Yeah. Him and the snipers he keeps around that attacking him.
At Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $5.04. I bet they would be quite puzzled with how Cyclops was post House of M. Like sending X-Force kill Stryker, or using the Phoenix Force.
Oh yeah. I'm seeing someone in chat say that Twilight Zone the movie was more unethical. Yeah, no, that was also very unethical, if not much worse. I don't think anyone died on set on X3. But yeah, Twilight Zone the movie, that was for many reasons unethical. For one, the child labor. For two, the death. For three, the dangerous set. And it was all in the one segment done by John Landis. Man, John Landis is a piece of work. Was John Landis ever implicated in the Epstein stuff? I don't think he's that kind of guy, but I know his son was very had a lot of sex scandals. I don't think John Landis would ever be involved with Epstein, but like I'm curious. Was he ever implicated in that? I don't think so, right? Yeah, chat. Does anyone know in chat if that were the case? I don't think he would be, but I feel like it wouldn't surprise me either, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he was involved, but like, no, Max Landis probably was involved with some crap. I'm not thinking John Landis. I don't think so, right? John Landis probably more like retired by the time Epstein really kicked it off, though. I don't know. Anyway, let me let the super chats play real quick.
At Dr. Zulu Gaming super chatted $3.61. Knowing about Brett Ratner's thoughts on LGBTQ plus rogues subplot was awful.
Yeah, to put it mildly. Yeah, between that and also considering that Anna Paquin's bisexual, Brett Ratner outed Elliot Page back when he identified as a lesbian. And at the time, Elliot Page was like 18 years old, being outed by this adult man publicly. Like, fucking Brett Ratner is evil. Like, he is a vile human being. And again, also heavily tied in with Epstein. Really tied in with Epstein. And he was kicked out of Hollywood basically for sex scandals before the Epstein stuff came out. So that's how you know what he was doing was horrible. Yeah, John Landis is a great director, but he's a terrible person. But I would say Brett Ratner is just a vile person. Brett Ratner's disgusting. Made a few movies I like, but what a terrible person. And the only work he gets, and now of course he's working again with the Melania documentary, everyone's favorite documentary produced film. Anyway, back to this.
Thing is, like, we've never actually gotten comic book accurate X-Men, so like I understand if you've done something comic accurate for so long, you're like, okay, now's the time to do a different take. I'm just very confused. So like, you're doing comic accurate at this point would be a fresh take. I don't know what you're thinking.
So we've had Spider-Man brand new.
Well, you can't do comic exact accurate because the MCU is now in a different place than the comics were.
Okay, we've had this introduction for Jean Grey where, spoilers, like she mind assaults thousands of people in New York, causes millions upon millions of dollars in destruction. There has got to be a number of deaths in there if we're being...
Okay, let's discuss the writing discussion right here. According to the writers, none of the characters died. According to the writers, Jean Grey didn't take a single life. I think that stretches credibility a lot, but okay. Let's say she killed a few people. Maybe 5 or 10 people based on situations. Like the that facility, when the bomb goes off, it's cleared. There's the one guy gets hit by a car. He maybe shows up in the credits, maybe. But we're talking like, but there's no bodies ever shown, so we can never get a good, accurate understanding of how many people are killed. Without bodies or without secondary sources giving a number of deaths, we can only assume that Jean caused a lot of bad boo-boos. She caused a lot of injuries, but not much. But she's mostly reckless. That's the problem. She's mostly reckless and apathetic. That's her biggest crime.
Realistic, but they're going to try to downplay that as she didn't kill any people. Oh, well, you know, now there's people that'll never walk again. Okay, because she's crippled them by shooting them in... Oh, she shot them in the knees. Okay, well, they're never walking again. Our introduction...
Right, but we're talking about a world where synthetic healing can happen. We have a system where if you get your organs, like, exploded, you can fix it. Like, that's a thing in this world that can actually exist. We have synthetic plastic now. That was back in years ago. We have a lot of ways to heal people in the MCU, in ways that even if they're injured seriously, they can still recover from. But okay. Also, the people who get shot in the knees are military personnel. That's what they're paid. They're kind of like, they're in the line of duty. Like, I don't know.
To the mutants through Jean Grey is they're terrorists. And what we're now hearing is that the new X-Men approach with Kevin Feige is that this is going to be morally gray and morally ambiguous. that all of the X-Men are going to live in this kind of morally gray space where they're not necessarily evil, but they're not necessarily good. And I'm curious for your take on that, because you know, you're an X-Men fan like me.
My big thing with the movie is just I was astounded at how far they took Jean Grey in terms of what she does. But also, it's one thing to just say that, like,
How far they took Jean Grey. Okay, let's ask a question here. How far did they take Jean Grey? I want to ask you a question here in chat. Who caused more fatalities? Jean Grey in the entirety of Brand New Day, or the Punisher in the first episode of season 2 of Daredevil? Chat, who was more violent? Let me ask the poll right now to make sure I get the answer. Who was more violent? 1 second. Jean Grey in Brand New Day. The Punisher in his first Daredevil episode. Cool. So, important question. Who was more violent? The Punisher or Jean Grey? I think the answer should be very clear. I think one by a very large margin was the more violent one, given the sheer number of bodies. I don't know, y'all. I think one was worse, but you know, what do I know? Just pointing it out there, guys.
like all of her like desperate destruction, like incidentally people were killed, or she's out of control, or like there's an insanity about her.
There's an insanity about her. What's the insanity? Being targeted by a government organization your entire life? Seeing your sister get kidnapped off the streets and being pissed about it? Keep in mind, Jean hacks computers first. She goes to the computers before attacking civilians. That's an important note to bring up.
Revels in like the destruction that she's causing. She enjoys it. She does things that are unnecessary. She completely is in control of her actions and her ability.
Tell me something else. What's more unnecessary? Stealing a girl off the streets to experiment on her and torture her slowly, or trying to find your sister? What's the more unnecessary action? Is Jean Grey's actions radicalized? Are all of them justified? Yes and no. She is radicalized, increasingly so, and not all of her actions are justified. However, does that make you evil and crazy? I would say no. I would say dehumanized. I would say desensitized to human experience, but evil? And who says she has a fun time? She looks miserable and upset the entire movie. She's not enjoying it. She's driven to do things like this.
Like there was no even excuse. And so I'm like, even if you want to downplay it, which you can't, but you downplay it and say, oh, well, these people were just injured, they weren't killed. She had definite intent to kill at multiple points in the movie. So even if you say, oh, somehow this person survived and they're just injured, or Spider-Man saved the day at the last second, she still had every intent to kill. And so what I say is, this is not moral ambiguity. This is just straight up evil. It just...
You know who else had intent to kill in the MCU? Tony Stark. You know, Tony Stark kills several people in the MCU. Is that inherently evil? Captain America kills a lot of people. Thor kills a lot of people. Hell, Thor in the very first Thor film just massacres a bunch of ice giants. And as revenge, just goes out and kills a bunch of them. Not out of defense, but out of retaliation. But does Thor get the same treatment that Jezebel gives Jean Grey? I would say no. Peter Parker had intent to kill in No Way Home. Doesn't kill, but even still. So And the thing is, that's funny is she's never actually explaining who Jean Grey had intent to kill. Who is Jean Grey trying to kill, and why? Could it be Metzger, the guy who kidnapped her sister and tortured her to death? I can see Jean Grey having a bit of an issue with that guy. Just a thought.
Just because she has a sad backstory, or her sister was taken from her, or whatever horrible thing was done to her. I said this in the video I just posted. There's a certain level of someone's actions where they lose their sympathy no matter what their story is. So, and I mean, we've seen this before in Marvel. Like I said, Ironheart, Wanda, like the MCU.
Ironheart? What the fuck does Ironheart do? She joins a criminal gang. They do some heists. And the moment one guy gets killed, she's like, nah, I'm out of here. And that show addresses the moral ambiguity of her actions. Like, that's a show all about a character being penalized for her less than stellar behavior. That's a show about a character going too far and being punished accordingly for it. Like, that's no comparison. And what she did was far, far, far less than what Jean Grey did. And and what Jean Grey did was vastly less than what Wanda did. And hell, if you really want to talk about characters who go way farther beyond ethically, what about Doctor Strange? Doctor Strange is responsible for entire universes dying. Let's let this I'm gonna let this poll end. Gonna let some super chats play.
At SM Jida super chatted $4.99. Jean Grey as the Phoenix killed 5 billion people.
Yep.
Paul Atreides, rookie numbers.
Paul Atreides is laughing at all of this, honestly.
At Agent Spaniel 4428 super chatted $2. I would like refer fake back to the void.
Yeah. The Void put the entirety of New York City in a vortex of suffering.
At Otto Johnny super chatted $5. Do you think the next phase of the MCU will be the Mutant Saga?
Yes. And I'm hoping the big bad's Apocalypse, personally. It'd be fun.
At Dylan Martin 2843 super chatted $3.61. Somehow only 74 people died in the alien invasion in Avengers 2012.
Shockingly, that seems too small a number to.
At Dr. Zulu Gaming super chatted $3.61. Frank Castle in B&D has to be told by Spider-Man to not trying to kill Jean Grey. Did Lobelia and Saruman ever watch the movie?
Yep, exactly.
Doesn't understand what moral ambiguity is. That's just how they try to justify evil characters doing evil things, because they're like, well, this character has trauma. That's unfortunately, and like,
well, no, she's attacking a government organization that kidnapped her sister, and she wants her sister back. Jean Grey does not know her sister died until she's in the room her sister died in. Is it evil to get your sister? It's not. She doesn't do things because trauma. She does things because she thinks it will bring her sister back.
X-Men fans will point this out. That's unfortunately what started to creep up in the 2010s and the 2020s with the X-Men. Now, there's actually some writers, like Gail Simone, for example. I'm not enjoying her run from a writing perspective. She actually seems to disagree with the angle of we need to like turn the X-Men into these like monsters who are justified in all they do.
Monsters.
But I think like
what do you mean? What do you mean by monsters, Jezebel? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Jezebel?
There's kind of no way to separate it from like modern day mindsets and politics, and the X-Men like has had politics associated with them, and you know.
Oh, they have. What politics? What politics, Jezebel? What are you talking about? Oh, you know, super chat. I didn't thought super chat's pause. I'm sorry.
At SM Jida super chatted $4.99. These are the same people that had problems Superman saving a squirrel.
Yep.
The bad guy's too bad, the good guy's too good, and neither can be flawed either.
My lobster's too buttery. But no, here's the thing. And I paused supers for a second, so I guess I gotta get this point out. Jezebel, why do you consider them monsters? What about the X-Men during the 2010s are monsters to you? Let me show you. There's one of two things she could be talking about, right? There's one of that's the broken one. Okay. There's one of two things she can be talking about right now. She can be either talking about the post-Schism X-Men or the Jonathan Hickman Krakoa X-Men. Which one is it, Jezebel? Is it the idea that Cyclops is attacking institutions, oppressing mutants, trying to defend humanity from, say, the mutant kind from the Terrigen gas that would, like, turn them into, like, fucking dead corpses? Or are you talking about Krakoa, where the mutants form their own society in the face of mutant oppression? Which one is it, Jezebel? Which one?
Political storylines that the perception of them started to become like the X-Men are hated and feared first, and that therefore justifies all that they do, something like that.
Right.
That's at least what's happened in the comics, and that's how we keep getting these stories where the
what comics are you talking about? The whole thing of Schism was that the X-Men were divided on whether or not to take increasingly radicalized perspectives in regards to human encounters, with Cyclops being willing to use the younger X-Men as soldiers in his fight, whereas Wolverine felt they were lines they shouldn't cross for the safety of their own kind. And that was what really formed the Schism, in simplified versions, of course, but still. The other thing is, if you're talking about Krakoa, then what's the problem? Them forming a new society on their own, with its own institutions and own problems, yes, but them running this Byzantine kind of organization on their own? And why are you using footage of Beast being arrested because he was attacking a Sentinel base? Like, what's the point there? What's the argument there? So, yeah, the X-Men need to tackle real difficult scenarios and difficult conversations because they exist in a world where they directly confront oppression. But opposing a government organization, opposing an institution that is directly oppressing and hurting you is not evil. It's revolution. We romanticize revolution all the time. We romanticize the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars for fighting the oppressive empire. Well, the Rebel Alliance are terrorists. The Rebel Alliance are terrorists in the eyes of the empire. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's a point that the X-Men often present. A lot of the villains that the X-Men fight are mutants who are more radicalized than the X-Men. And they believe the only actions that will cause a benefit to their kind and their cause is a violent one. And because of that, it's very morally ambiguous. It's very ambiguous and gray what's happening with that. So you got to look at that perspective too. Anyway, let's let some super chats play. John Brown, yeah, I saw some John Brown praise in the comments.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $2. Monsters?
Yeah.
They look like monsters to you?
Freaking love that line. What an iconic little bit there.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. Ant X Jester Bell enemies to lovers fanfic.
Oh God, please don't.
At Concerningly Wise Alligator super chatted $9.17. Yeah, X-Men is crafted to tackle hard moral questions. If it doesn't challenge you, you are just enjoying the moving colors.
Exactly.
Stop being a child, and don't try to pretend children are stupid.
Exactly.
At Pandamani super chatted $5. Oppressed people fighting back is evil to some people, unless it's imaginary oppression of people like them.
Well, even then, apparently it's still bad, like in this.
At the guy 493 super chatted $2. Ant stroked wizard's beard softly.
Oh no, we're going into that now, please. We both know that beard is fake. It would come off in a second.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. List of people objectively worse than Jean: Tony, Thor, Loki, Bucky, Blonsky, Thaddeus Ross, Killmonger, Thanos, Gamora. Is there anyone I'm missing?
I'd say a lot of the characters, honestly. I think Gene's way smaller of a list of crimes than a lot of the other characters in the MCU, I'd say. Has a large list of characters who are vastly worse in the MCU than Jean Grey. All right, I'm going to use this time to take a brief break. When we come back, we'll watch more, as well as another video, I think, that will be important as a perspective, as a counterbalance to all of this. I'm just going to play some music here. And while I'm gone, I want to ask the question. Do you think Jean Grey is justified? Yes or no? Simple yes or no question. Let's see what you think. I'll be right back. All right, I have returned. Okay, I'm gonna pause that song. I'm gonna stop that. With a cannon playing, I think it was. All right, back to the screen. Almost hit the end stream panel there real quick. Let's let some super chats play real quick.
At their Elverton super chatted $1.36.
Nice. Oh, thank you so much.
At Alice Devil 7490 super chatted $2. GTA 6 will not be releasing on the Game Boy Color.
It won't? Oh, I'm shocked. That's it for me.
At Itsuboy 562 super chatted $3.14. The evil, marginalized individual did some mean things to the innocent government people. She's pure evil. Just say you shill for ICE already, FFS.
Seriously. It's all superhero
At Lupin the
ice
Maelstrom
that
super
they're
chatted
shooting for.
$2. Fury, Odin, Fisk, Sharon, Val, Ultron, High Evo.
Yeah, all worse.
At Tikla Studios super chatted $4.99. The movie's version of Jean isn't justified, emo, but considering her childhood and abilities, it makes sense why she has little concern for others.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you, Lucky Dagger, for being moved for 5 months. Jean's justified. I support women's wrongs. I too support women's wrongs. If you support women's rights, you got to support their wrongs too. It's a rule of thumb. It's an important lesson to have. But yeah, no, I don't think she's like. I'm gonna pause supers real quick. In the hierarchy of villainy, I don't think she comes close to even other things other Spider-Man villains have done in this show so far, in this series so far. But anyway, let's keep going.
Men are just like becoming more and more cruel. Like we hear the rumor about Avengers Doomsday that they're going to be destroying Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man universe just to save their own universe. And it's like, why would you be doing that? Well, I think
that's a plot line from the comics. It's also not confirmed. And the whole plot about incursions are that universes are crashing into one another. So, there you go.
That it might potentially fit into this mindset that I don't understand why they have, and just kind of shows how warped it is to me, where they think, okay, hated and feared first, that means it justifies all of this. And like anything that they do can be written away as moral ambiguity. Well, you might say that this is a bad action in isolation, but you got to think about like what's been done to these people first and what they're reacting to. I think that that's what they see as moral ambiguity. And I think that that is a huge.
Not really. Here's the problem with his mentality. The way you're framing it creates the idea that what the mutants are doing is wrong, but if you feel bad for them, it's not as bad. But that's not really the case. Moral ambiguity means that from different perspectives, the actions can be seen as good or bad. Again, it's the phrase, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Is this person a destructive force of chaos who causes harm wherever they go? Or are they fighting an institutional force for some desired end? That's the discussion. By framing it as though, oh, this character is all evil, this character is all good, you miss the point of it. And that's a dangerous thing to do. It's a deeply misleading thing to do, frankly.
Huge mistake. I think that like X-Men is not just like an easy sell anymore. I don't know if people even realize that. Like, if you really pay attention to what normies are responding to, they love Spider-Man. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth still seems like a big sell. Like my initial screening for Doomsday was almost completely sold out within an hour of the tickets going on sale. But like when I look around and like the evidence of X-Men, like X-Men 97, that was very, very well received, but barely anyone watched it. And especially season two, no one is watching that show, even though it got like all the great reviews when it came out. And I'll just speak for myself. Like I love X-Men and I would love to do more X-Men videos. I have a hard time justifying it though, because whenever I do an X-Men video, it like really struggles. Sometimes I've gotten a hit, but it like really struggles. And that's just, my niche on YouTube. And sometimes the internet doesn't tell you everything. The overall sense that
It's your niche on YouTube. Let me show you something here. Okay. Let me show you something real quick. Marvel Rivals. Let's take a look. Y'all, let me ask you a question. What do you think the most popular video on the Marvel Rivals page here is? Most popular. Deadpool coming to town. Number 1, then Angela, then White Fox, apparently. That's interesting. Blade, Emma Frost, pretty high up there. Devil Dinosaur, Cyclops, Gambit, Rogue, Mr. Fantastic. So apparently, Cyclops, Gambit, and Rogue got more attention than Black Cat, Ultron, Daredevil, all the Fantastic Four apparently, except for Mr. Fantastic, the Hood for sure. Phoenix Jubilee at the end of that, but Elsa Bloodstone, of course. But even then, all of these videos get millions of views. Marvel Rivals has demonstrated a niche outside the cartoons where a lot of normies are watching and enjoying the X-Men. Marvel Rivals has demonstrated there is a massive audience for the X-Men. Same with Tokon as well. To use a Disney Plus streaming show that's a sequel to a show from the 90s as a basis to determine the popularity and health of the X-Men franchise overall, it's ridiculous to do that. In fact, it's one of the dumbest things you can possibly do, ever for that matter. To use that as a point of comparison, as a measuring stick, is extremely foolish. It's your niche, purely your niche. Your niche exists as a means to rage people online. In fact, let's take a look. I can do that. Okay, 1 second. I see. 1 second here. Here we go. Took me long enough. What are your most popular videos, by the way? First and foremost, just about your most popular video is 300,000 views. Not terrible, but you know, I've had more views on X-Men videos, multiple X-Men videos on my channel, and I have about the same. I'm only a little bit larger than you in terms of subscriber count. The first video that has X-Men on it is, where is it? Right here. Actually, you have the X-Men on the cover, on your thumbnail right there. That's one example. That has 180 views. Where are your X-Men related videos, actually, Justabel? Yeah, okay. Your channel does not have a lot of stuff here. Okay, so right here, your top X-Men video is actually on this topic. 97,000 views from 2 weeks ago. Huh. Interesting. Anyway. Yeah, so not a ton. Not a ton of views. But your audience comes for quantity rather than quality, I suppose.
I get is that the X-Men are not as culturally relevant as they once were. And I think that goes for years of them being misused, whether it's in the comics. You know, Marvel actually tried to throttle them for a while off of merchandise and stuff because they were jealous they didn't have the Fox rights. And, you know, the Fox movies never did them correctly. They ended off in a very weak note with X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
Terrible.
So I think, yeah.
Actually, New Mutants was the last Fox X-Men film before the MCU took over.
And like the only movie that even got close to $1 billion for X-Men was Days of Future Past, which got 700 million. X-Men.
Justabel, that's a lie. There is an X-Men film that crossed $1 billion. In fact, there's an X-Men film that crossed $1 billion 3 years ago. It's called Deadpool and Wolverine. 2 years ago, I think, actually. So yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine is a rated R film that did cross over $1 billion. Now, even more important, Days of Future Past grossed about as much, if not slightly more, than The Amazing Spider-Man 2, meaning that Days of Future Past was competing and on the level with Spider-Man at that time. Until the MCU took over Spider-Man, none of the Spider-Man movies grossed $1 billion either. All of the X-Men films, though, were successful. I don't think there was a single flop among them. And some of the movies, like Days of Future Past, for example, and First Class, X2, Logan, the first two Deadpool films, in that pre-MCU era, were highly well regarded. So, there you go. That's the Super Chats play.
At Dr. Zulu Gaming Super Chatted $3.61. I would say she's justified. If
Yep.
I'm in her shoes and my siblings would be kidnapped by the Govenement, I'd do everything to save them.
Exactly. So would I. If your siblings are taken, absolutely.
At Geek Ledger Super Chatted $5. She's not evil and I get Gene taunting Spider-Man as he was actively working with the DODC. However, the MJ stuff felt unnecessarily spiteful.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair, I think.
At Redacted 9419 Super Chatted $2. I may be racist, but you're mean and that's worse.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels half the time with this. I might be racist, but you're evil or
At
mean
Nick
to me. That
Wolf
makes it worse.
3885 Super Chatted $5. Britta. I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at harming innocent blameless government workers.
Exactly.
Surely, you can excuse racism. _Crim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At Eustace Giwo Super Chatted $5. Gee, why ever would Jester Bell's audience be uninterested in a set of characters that are an overt metaphor for oppressed minority groups? Thinking face.
It'll remain a mystery forever, I'm afraid. We'll have no idea why. Tragic.
At Dr. Zulu Gaming Super Chatted $3.61. When Marvel was trying to replace the X-Men with the Inhumans, many X-Men fans, myself included, hated it.
Yep. It was people were angry about that for a while.
At Mantis1515 Super Chatted $2.71. If I wanted to read X-Men, where should I start?
That's a good question. I would recommend the Chris Claremont run. That's a good starting point with Giant Size X-Men #1 to move on from there chronologically. I also recommend, if you want to read modern X-Men, honestly, Krakoa, pretty good place to start too. Also, I would say for the 2000s era, if you want to start with Grant Morrison's run, that's a good jumping on point as well. Astonishing X-Men is also good, the Joss Whedon one. And honestly, you can even just pick up God Loves, Man Kills, and that can give you a sense of who the X-Men are pretty quickly. And a lot of storylines build off of that. What I would not recommend you do is start with the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee run. I would not recommend that, because that's...
At There Oliverton Super Chatted $6.78. Wolverine to Secret W. Terrorists, that's what the big army calls the little army. Women getting the UK vote, Mandela and more, terrorists.
Exactly. It's, everything from basic rights. It's funny. They, Martin Luther King famously said, that a riot is the language of the unheard. It's something I reference a lot in my videos, that one quote specifically, because it's true. A riot is the language of the unheard. It is what happens when all other options are stripped away from you and you're left with nothing. Not a damn thing. I'll let this one go.
At Ermanita Rules Super Chatted $1.99. The first arc to Astonishing X-Men is goated.
I would say the entire Joss Whedon run on Astonishing X-Men is fantastic, but I think that the Gifted arc is pretty damn good, which is a shame it was adapted in such a terrible movie as X3. Anyway, back to this.
is just not as culturally relevant because they've gone through so many years where they've been misused. And so, like, I don't know how much this Spider-Man film, it might help boost an X-Men film and get eyes on it, but I think that there's a chance that it might just wind up like the Fantastic Four movie, like if people don't respond to the marketing well. Like Fantastic
No. You're an idiot. I'm sorry to say. In no world does the X-Men film do what the Fantastic Four film did. It's just not happening. I'm sorry. The X-Men are by far one of the most iconic sets of characters ever. And if you look outside of niche anime projects on Disney Plus as a metric of success, you will see that mainstream audiences care about X-Men through the video games. That is the premier medium upon which we have going up. Oh, what's going on, Lizzie? the channel Awesome Reject is talking shit again. Not just that, it's Jester Bell too. So it's the one who thinks she's female Frodo Baggins. Yeah, Jester Bell's completely divorced from reality. Completely.
Four, it didn't have a lot of hate around it, but it's like people just didn't care. Yeah, they didn't care. And then it made its money. It actually did better than the other Marvel movies that year. But then the big thing was when it hit streaming, no one was watching it. And like the director of that movie has completely left Marvel, and it's a big indication. Like no sequel to that. There's no fan base around.
Yeah, just like when Thor 2's director left Marvel, there was never another Thor film after that. When the Avengers director left, they never made another Avengers film after that too. It's very sad.
Around Fantastic Four, and I think that is the direction that the X-Men are potentially headed in.
What scares me here is, this Spider-Man Brand New Day it's breaking box office records. It's on the road to $2 billion.
No, it's now past $2 billion.
Possibly could hit $2 billion. It
has passed $2 billion.
Past that.
I think it will. I think it will.
I think it will too. That's concerning because Disney and Sony and all these corporations, they always learn the wrong lessons. Oh, yeah. And so my fear is, and I believe that this was kind of staggered this way. I think this was intentional because we got a series of leaks some time ago. I want to say over a year ago, about what the Brand New Day movie was supposed to be, what it was going to be. And it was a Spider-Man villain. Jean Grey was in it, but she did not have such a villainous role in it. She was framed as being the body snatcher, as being a terrorist. Like she was.
Oh my God, you're an idiot. Okay. No. Jean Grey was set to be Spider-Man. Sorry, Spider-Man. Jean Grey was going to be the villain of the Spider-Man movie before they filmed Stranger Things. She told people while filming Stranger Things she was playing the main antagonist of the film and that she was the villain. The leaks you heard were bullshit. We found out at one point that the only change they were going to make at one point was going to have more villains in the fight that the Hand is in that were mind controlled by Jean Grey. But they just reduced it down to focus on the emotional core of the scene, which I think was the smarter choice. The previous draft of Brand New Day that was pitched by Sony as opposed to Marvel was that Null would be the big bad of the film. But that was rejected by Marvel because it was a bad idea, because it was bad.
Framed and at the end, and it's revealed like who really is the bad guy, and it was supposed to be like the Jackal was originally supposed to.
No, the Jackal was never planned for Brand New Day. At least not seriously. There was no casting for the Jackal. No one was ever going to play the Jackal. That was always a rumor. Because the rumor was, for a while, that Keith David was going to play the Jackal. But Keith David is a voice in a YouTube video in the movie itself. Literally who? Okay, the Jackal is one of Spidey's more iconic villains. He's responsible for one of the most widely hated storylines in comic history, the Clone Saga. If the fake wizard is praying for the days we get the Clone Saga in live action, I am sorry to tell you, I don't think we should get that.
To be the villain for this movie, which is a Spider-Man villain. Clearly, that's not the case. And my personal philosophy, if that's true, is that Kevin Feige came in and said, hey, fantastic.
That's not a philosophy. That's your theory.
Fantastic Four flopped, Thunderbolts flopped, all of our Marvel stuff is toast. We need to treat this, because we know it's going to be such a hit, we're going to treat this as a soft launch of the X-Men. We need to give Jean Grey way more involvement in this, and it's going to be...
Are you suggesting that Kevin Feige, with less than a year to make the movie, completely redid the entirety of Brand New Day without any scheduled major reshoots? Now, when Captain America Brave New World had its massive reshoots, that did reshape the film, because we know what would happen when it does do that. There were massive, massive reshoots scheduled, massive reshoots planned, new actors cast. It was way more serious than just, oh, what's going on here? You know? It was extensive stuff. Not so simple.
Be our kickoff point for the X-Men. And the only reason I really believe that now is because the last couple of days has just been announcement after announcement of leaks and rumors of who's playing who in the upcoming X-Men movie. It's like,
because they were cast. That's why.
Like, it's too well timed for all.
It's too well timed. They released the cast on D23. That's why you got all the information there.
Yeah, well, all of this was intentional. The one thing that I question about the leaks is it makes sense that like a different villain was supposed to like be the villain in this movie, because that would explain why Jean Grey's actions are so extreme. But it still confuses me. Like, even if that was a rewrite, like, but if you're using this to set up your MCU X-Men, like, you should have a good grasp on what you want your X-Men to be, what you want your Jean Grey to be. So why would you allow her to be so drastically changed from a framed character to a villain? So
because they want her to be a freedom fighter. One man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter. A riot is the language of the unheard, and there's no one more unheard than Jean Grey in this film.
Questions about that. So we just had The Odyssey, and I mentioned that it was kind of a Trojan horse movie because it wound up being everything I expected it to be in terms of like how it handled its male characters, female characters, its themes, and all of that kind of stuff. But I recognize like most people in like casual audiences aren't even going to recognize any of that, because you kind of have to be plugged into all of this stuff to know.
What?
So I call that a Trojan horse in that sense. But I also think that Spider-Man Brand New Day has been used as a Trojan horse because...
What?
And I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I do want to say this positively about Sony. Like, I think that they have been very good about responding to criticism with the character of Peter Parker specifically. Like, I'll give an example. First Amazing Spider-Man, people were heavily critical of that movie for like Peter Parker's too edgy. He says that the best kind of promises are the ones you don't keep. That is completely against Peter Parker. Okay, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Peter Parker has a brighter personality. He actually does really care and struggle with the promise he made to Captain Stacy. And like the rest of the movie, unfortunately, was awful. But I saw in terms of the change of portrayal there that they were trying to respond to criticism. And like, I see it in the Tom Holland movies. Like, people were saying Spider-Boy for so long. I felt like Tom Holland.
What the actual fuck are you talking about? Are you suggesting that Sony responds well to criticism and that actually grew positively from that experience? Is that what you're suggesting? Is that what you're proposing? Tell me, Jessica, for 1 second here. What was the main critique of Spider-Man 3? At the film was perhaps somewhat overstuffed, and that certain ideas didn't have the chance to breathe properly, and that rather than give Sam Raimi a chance to cook properly, they rushed him out the door to make The Amazing Spider-Man. And tell me, what happened in The Amazing Spider-Man Part 2? What was that? What was that about? What happened there? What was the thing that happened in that movie that caused that whole thing to implode? Was it perhaps an overstuffing? And indeed, the thing that killed the Sinister Six and The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was the difficult time they had trying to figure out how to squeeze Venom in there. Because squeezing Venom was the problem that killed Spider-Man 3, essentially, when it was being worked on. And tell me this as well. Which studio actually prevented... was trying to do a null film. Which one was that? Which one was doing null, by the way? Oh, and by the way, Sony, of course, with its great character writing, brought us the best films. Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter. Such iconic masterpieces of storytelling. And isn't that why we couldn't use Kraven the Hunter in the third Home movie? Because the Sony wanted to make their own spin-off using Kraven the Hunter. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Did I forget that right? Do you remember that correctly there, Justin Bell? But Sony was such a great use of the character. Oh, and by the way, doesn't Peter ignore that Captain Stacy thing after the initial scene? And wasn't that also not pushed by Sony, but instead pushed by Mark Webb, the director, who wanted to make the romantic element more strong in that film? And then Sony muddled with the script. So much so, in fact, that Andrew Garfield refused to go to dinner with a Sony executive because he was so pissed off by how the original script he loved so much was twisted around by Sony executives. Do I ever call that correctly there, Justin Bell? Am I remembering that event correctly? And what about Avi Arad, someone who forced every single movie production he was on to include the toys he think would sell the most? I'm sorry, the characters he liked the most. Like, say, forcing Sam Raimi, who had never actually read a Venom comic before, to put Venom in the storyline, despite the fact that he wanted to use the Vulture in that film. And then when he wanted to use the Vulture again in the next film, Avi Arad pressured Sam Raimi into choosing a different villain, because it would be more visually spectacular to have someone else aside from Vulture, even though Marvel Studios would eventually push for the Vulture to get made in the film, and that film itself would be one of the best films, with the best, well, not best films, one of the best supervillains on all of the Marvel, the Spider-Man stories. Hell, Marvel for that matter. Am I remembering that correctly, Justabel? Do I ever call those events correctly? Because I feel like I'm remembering something a little differently. I feel like listening to you talk has caused the brain cells in my brain to light a flame and burn the skull I wear under my skin into little pieces as I try to recontextualize from the ashes that was once my brain what possible thought you thought you had in that ridiculous, inane, bizarre statement you just made, praising one of the most famously intrusive studios in terms of superhero cohesive storytelling, and argue that somehow they are better equipped to telling Spider-Man stories than Marvel Studios. And all of that was said without mentioning the fact they wanted to make an Aunt May movie. Okay. And yes, the Aunt May movie was real. That was a real plan. It's in the Sony leaks we found out about that. Let's let some Super Chats play real quick.
At Mohammed-KM9KW super chatted $2.67. No one would say this if Gene was a man.
Agreed. Agreed.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $2. God loves man krills helped me get X-Men.
Such a great comic. One of the best of all time. Agreed.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $2. Also, X-Men Grand Design is a great X-Men primer.
Agreed. Agreed.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $2. Spider Odyssey, 26's Barbenheimer?
Yes.
Doomsday?
Doomsday, I think, is going to not be Barbenheimer. I think people
At Zypher 8677 super chatted $10. I think grifters are upset cause they are realizing that they are aligned with the evil Gov.org and are rejecting it.
Agreed.
If damage control was perceived as left-wing, they would support Gene attacking them.
100%. 100%. And it's kind of what I'm going to be talking about in the video about this.
At Watchful Skunk super chatted $2.13. The Odyssey really did break their minds, lol.
It did. And now they have to find... They're broken. They're beyond broken at this point, y'all.
At Mr. Witchking21 super chatted $5. Pretty sure Wizard takes his talking points and style from WDW Pro. Extrapolating hard on minimal factoids and praying their audience isn't educated.
Yeah. Yeah, he expects his audience to be stupid.
At Dr. Zulu Gaming super chatted $3.61. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent, Jester Bell.
Clearly not.
At Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $5.04. Remember how Sony learned about backlash about Amazing Spider-Man 2 by doubling down on the villain verse no one wanted?
Yep. I do recall that. Extensively.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. Ant Wizard and Jester making the beast with 3 backs.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $2. Flames on the side of my face.
The side of my face? Fucking love Clue. As I was trying to think of it, and it wasn't
At the
coming fast enough.
Wholesale House super chatted $5. I like to say that the X-Men are messy bitches, because that's why we love them.
Yep.
Their messiness is what makes them fun and interesting as characters.
It's a soap opera. It's over the top and glorious. It's great. It's good stuff.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. Will Dune 3 be good? I haven't seen 1 or 2.
I think Dune is going to be fantastic. Yeah, Dune is excellent.
At Eustace
watch 1 and 2.
Giwo super chatted $5. Oh God, an Aunt May movie?
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me they were going to adapt The Abomination. Trouble, fearful face.
It was going to be Aunt May as a secret government agent. Yeah, that was what it was going to be. It was going to be a spy story starring Aunt May. Because that's what everyone wants, a Aunt May spy story. That is a thing that everyone apparently wants. Allegedly, according to the leaks. It was never scripted, I don't think. It was just pitched. Anyway, we have a few minutes of this video left. Let's wrap up.
Tried to make his performance a bit more mature. So that's kind of a contrast there, because I just feel like, again, I feel like Kevin Feige knows Spider-Man Brand New Day, guaranteed hit. I can use this to advertise all the stuff that I want to do. And that's why, like, the most blatant example of that is Yelena Belova. Is there any evidence that Yelena Belova is a draw as a character? Black Widow movie she's in flopped. Thunder.
You two have... Okay, first off, the Black Widow movie flopped because it was released during COVID.
Both starring her flopped. There has been no evidence that she is actually a draw. She is in there solely so that he can put her in the movie. I've already seen like the AstroTurf tweets about how wonderful she is. It's just to put her in the movie and basically advertise her to people. And
Jezebel, you have never spoken to a lesbian before in your life. And the fact I can tell that because you clearly think that no one likes Yelena. Every single lesbian I have ever met loves Yelena on some level, and that draws them in. The moment that Florence Pugh realized her audience is predominantly composed of lesbians, she entirely played into the bit. That's just life. You have never been on TikTok at all. Yeah, see, the lesbians in chat, including Lizzie, are confirming my point. Yeah, look, Yelena's a good character. I love Yelena. She's just a fun character. Like, she's arguably on TikTok. You talk to those TikTokers who are like, "Oh no, what's the, whatever with the MCU and all this stuff." All of them kind of agree that Yelena is one of the best characters added to the MCU. And if you talk about taking a minor character and elevating them, Yelena's up there.
Like the same thing with Jean Grey. It's there as an advertisement for the X-Men in the MCU. And like the same thing was done, in like Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man 2. Like he's done this all throughout the MCU where there will be movies that are just basically softcore advertisements for things that they wanted.
Softcore? Chesterbell, softcore means something very different. And I'm not sure you want to say the MCU is softcore anything. That's a very different statement.
Do in the future. And so like it's a Trojan horse, and Kevin Feige's done this a lot because every movie that has been like really successful both critically and financially, initially Guardians 3, Wolverine, Deadpool, and the Spider-Man movie.
Oh, so you do acknowledge the fact that Deadpool and Wolverine was $1 billion movie.
They've all had like a creative force that is like stronger than Kevin Feige, but each time he uses the movies as an example of the MCU's success. Like Deadpool and Wolverine, he was on the stage right after that did well, like just kind of basking in the success of it and announcing Doomsday. And Deadpool and Wolverine, I would say, really informed a lot of what they're doing with Doomsday, taking the wrong lessons of like the cameos and all of that. But the thing is, I think,
are you under the impression that he based the script of Doomsday on the fact that the Deadpool and Wolverine was successful? Or do you potentially, and mind you, here's a possible thought here, maybe what it is that Deadpool and Wolverine is part of the same saga that Doomsday is a part of, and they were all informed by the same creative initiative. Because if you argue that Doomsday had that Deadpool and Wolverine had a lot of cameos, then what about Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness?
Kevin Feige is 100% gonna use this movie to justify everything that he's doing in the future. Like, oh, this Spider-Man movie that had evil Jean Grey, or as he would put it, morally ambiguous Jean Grey, oh, that made $2 billion or whatever. We should go forward. Oh, Yelena was in that movie. Yeah, Yelena starred in like $2 billion Spider-Man movie. People love Yelena. Really, people just love Spider-Man. And like Jean Grey and Yelena, most people like we're X-Men fans. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I recognize that like X-Men is already this more niche thing because of years of...
You're a huge X-Men fan, but you haven't described anything you actually like about X-Men in this video at all. You've said, oh, Jean Grey is out of character. Okay. What's Jean Grey's character? Who is she? Okay, you know what? I'm going to say, let's put a pin in this, because I think that they've said all they need to say. I'm going to bring up an actually good video on the X-Men from a friend of the channel. This right here is a little video.
Does, and
right here.
So I was scrolling on my feed late at night, as one does, and I came across this short by Impound Comics, who was actually responding to another person from TikTok, I believe, and I'm just going to go ahead and play that short in full right now. I think he brings up some interesting points, but I just want to make a few corrections and build off of what he was saying.
I never liked the X-Men as a group, and I didn't know why until I started thinking about it. It's because their story's based off racism and being an outsider, and it just doesn't make sense.
There's a lot to unpack here. And let me start by saying this. I understand what you think you're saying as an example, but you miss the main premise of X-Men. For one, it's not based on racism, it's based on discrimination, since the X-Men are a bunch of different races and ethnicities, but the idea of racism in the real world. And the reason why I say you didn't understand the premise is because you said this.
Example, say a boulder's falling on a person, they're frozen in fear. Somebody throws a card at the boulder, it breaks, saves the person's life. And people just react with, oh my god, what a freak, he could throw exploding cards? Alright, same scenario now. So boulder's fallen, and another man comes by, sticks white sticky fluid that comes out of his wrist onto the man, and pulls him to save him. Pulls him out of the way of the boulder. And they're like, oh, what a hero, we love this guy, he's awesome!
So to sum up what he's saying, he doesn't understand why mutant powers are frowned upon. Then other characters like the Hulk, Spider-Man, other type of heroes, their powers are praised and they're looked at as superheroes. But what he doesn't understand is it's not about the powers on what separates the mutants from the other characters. For one, you use Hulk as an example, but that was actually a bad example because Hulk is definitely discriminated against, but a different reason. That's a whole nother example. But these characters and other characters in Marvel, again, are mutates. They're, for the most part, lab experience or some sort of tampering from man made a lot of these characters the way that they are, and it can be explained or prevented. Mutants is a story about evolution, literally evolution, having a thing called the X gene. Now let me explain why that's a problem for them or for mankind. The X-Men is a story about the chain of evolution, and what we know about that is whenever a new version shows up, it dominates the previous version or the previous version ceases to exist. So when you talk about a time where there were Neanderthals, they were the most intelligent and dominant being on planet Earth until the modern humans showed up, and then they ceased to exist. Mutants are the next chain in human evolution. So this is the modern human, and this is what we are going to become, and there's nothing that humans can do to stop it because it's evolution. So the reason why there's discrimination and hatred towards the mutants is because the modern human fears we will cease to exist if we don't stop evolution from happening, because it's inevitable for the better versions of human beings to dominate the past versions. So these type of heroes technically is not evolution. They were tampered with and created and mutated. So it's
I do want you to watch the rest of the video later on, but I think that's an important detail right there. Ultimately, mutants present an existential threat to the greater society of humanity. That's important. Now, let's let some super chats play real quick.
At redacted 9419 super chatted $5. This video is literally just a court fool and raving lunatic discussing media they don't understand.
100% agree with that. Yep.
At Jopan super chatted $2. Reason Yelena office as Asana in Spider-Man BND?
Because I think it's a great office.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. What is it with these people gaslighting us re Florence Pugh? Yelena's been a delight in everything she's shown up in.
Yeah.
Heck, she's better than ScarJo.
I would say by far better. I'd say substantially better than Scarlett Johansson, I'd say.
At Eustace Giwo super chatted $2. White guy fails to realize bigotry makes no sense.
Yeah, 100%. Racism is an irreverent, bizarre nonsense thing. It makes no damn sense. None of it has ever made sense. And that's just how it is, you know? I do recommend watching the rest of Krim's video. I just put a link to it in the description below. Add it to your watch list later. Sadly, I'm going to come back to this right here. But I do want to click on Real Life Fake Wizard's channel for a second, because they did put a follow-up video that I think might give us some perspective on what he thinks about Jean Grey without Jezebel there.
Hello there.
Irreverent. No, I think irreverent might not be the right word. You're probably right. So I want to talk right here about what he says here. We're not going to watch the whole video because, honestly, I got to work my own video for this week before long. I want to end stream at a relatively normal time period. However, I do want to talk briefly about this real quick. And let's look at what he has to say without Jezebel there. Hopefully he has his own... Maybe he got to think about more about his ideas and have a stronger conceit with them. We'll see.
I'm the real life fake wizard. July 31st, 2026 saw the release of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and throughout the film, Sadie Sink's Jean Grey character throws people off of rooftops, walks a man into oncoming traffic, hijacks people's minds and bodies as if they're rental cars, and uses Zendaya's MJ as a puppet so she can torture Peter Parker in the most personal way that she could invent, which resolves with throwing Zendaya off a rooftop too. Now, the cost for all of this is that Jean is trying to find her sister. That's the justification. Her sister was taken by a government agency after being caught mind-jacking people to do things against their will, of which, we're told earlier in the film, is a nightmarish experience for the hijacked person who loses complete control of their mind and body and can't remember anything upon waking up, but they do know that they lost control for that duration of time. So, this is a form of torture. Jean and Sarah Gray are essentially torturing people. The culture surrounding this movie, when faced with the fact that Jean Grey...
Here's the thing. I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's kind of a weird way of phrasing it. They have no memory of it. They have no experience. When MJ describes it, it's like blinking in and out. They don't even know they've lost control. It's like it's more of a lost time situation where they are 1 second they're aware of what they're doing, and next they're at the end of the possession phase. So they know they've lost control of something only because someone else has told them they've lost control of a situation. Because of that, it's hard to gauge this as simply saying, oh, they're being tortured. But again, I feel like that's the exact same phrasing that Mauler used in his video.
Gray, as tortured, crippled, and attempted to murder people throughout the film, has been met online with attempted justification from some, but more so, that Jean isn't actually good or evil. This iteration is morally gray. She's a morally gray character, and perhaps this version of the X-Men, the upcoming X-Men, I mean, will be morally gray too. The problem is that she isn't. Jean Grey here is not morally gray. This depiction is just plain evil, but Hollywood doesn't see the difference, either by choice or because it helps further their belief system to the masses, that there is no more good, there is no more evil, there is just morally gray, a sticky subcenter where everything is actually based on the desires and feelings of the individual in each moment, rooted in a desire for oneself. And if everyone is...
That's not really at all what? Okay. Chat, okay, hang on a second here. A desire for oneself. Because she wants to save her sister from a government organization, she enacts means to get to that further end with her actions. And, like, what? That's bizarre logic.
At AdhamWasher5320 super chatted $5. Anti-mutant. Have you tried not being a mutant? Storm. Does nothing, it worked. I'm cured thanks anti-mutants.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just a bizarre way of looking at it. So evil is when you try to save your family from an organization that rips people off the streets. So it's bad when fighting an organization that snatches families away. But it's good when Tony Stark goes into another country and steals a kid and rescues a kid from a terrorist group. Is that correct? Am I getting it correct right now? Am I understanding that right? So, one guy is innocent for kidnapping kids off the street. Another guy is the bad guy for doing the exact same thing in Iron Man 1. Is that correct? Am I following that correct? Like, does that make any sense? I feel like I'm not seeing something here. Something's not adding up. Something's not making sense to me, I don't think.
It's morally gray. If we, as human beings, are all morally gray creatures, then choosing to do the right things by ourselves and each other, well, it no longer has any meaning. Sitting on the fence seems like wisdom, because why live any other way, right? There is no meaning on either side if we're all morally gray, except...
No, That's not what we talk. What the fuck? No, okay. No, okay. There is meaning in life if life is gray. Life is inherently gray. Your subjective perspectives on reality are in conflict with other people's subjective perspectives on reality. The facts of life is that everyone exists where they believe they are justified in their own actions. There are cosmological ideas in some religious frameworks that frame the world in perspectives of good and evil, sure. But when discussing you did wrong by me, that is evil, or you did wrong by me, but you thought you were doing the right thing, they are completely different ideas.
At Dylan Martin 2843 super chatted $3.61. Are blowhards mad about moral grayness? Gonna hate vigilante mass murder guy Frank Castle?
They never hate on Frank Castle. That's the thing. Frank Castle has a body count in the hundreds of thousands in some stories. In some cases, the billions. But no one cares about Frank Castle. Like, again, Thanos was seen as morally gray, but he's still the Mad Titan and he's a bad guy. Meanwhile, channels like, say, crud, Second Story, would argue, no, but Thanos is framed as morally gray in the story and ambiguous, but that's not the case. Jesus Christ. It's ridiculous. It's purely ridiculous what they're all saying. Truly ridiculous stuff, I would say. Their argument is that moral ambiguity in general is a form of degeneracy. But that's simply not reality. It's not anchored in reality. In reality, it's not moral degeneracy to have a different perspective. Moral degeneracy is a much different concept and one that doesn't really exist outside of right-wing talking points, outside of culture war bullshit talking points. It's bizarre to me that they keep acting this way, that there's some, well, again, it's satanic panic bullshit is what it is. That society is trying to decay the foundational elements of society, our worldly anchors our tethers to ethics and morality. The Shire has fallen. Yeah, that's exactly true. Yeah.
Except, what's very funny about that, and for fence sitters, is that sitting on the fence is a choice, but the choice of supposed neutrality is not wisdom.
You don't understand what morally gray is. No, morally gray is not fence sitting. Fence sitting is not choosing a side on a matter. The fact that there's moral ambiguity is the argument that one side isn't necessarily all evil, but their actions may have ramifications that are bad, or they might hurt people along the way. When people say morally gray, it's not because it's either good or evil, it's because ideas in life are not concrete always.
It's worse. Okay, so if this was just one messy Spider-Man plot, we could shrug it off and go home, right? It wouldn't matter as much because it would just be a one-time thing, but this has been going on for many years now. If we look at something like A Song of Ice and Fire, George R.R. Martin's writing style is one of moral grayness, that people are not all good and not all evil. That translated to the Game of Thrones show, which captured the attention of the entire West. But you know something interesting?
Game of Thrones would not be made unless The Sopranos was a bigger hit first, and that used moral ambiguity as a means to get you to sympathize with a mob boss, who himself was a bastard. Listen, Tony Soprano is the bad guy. He has good elements to his personhood, but he's, at the end of the day, a criminal. Moral ambiguity is simply to say you will do things for the sake of your family and for survival that aren't always good in Game of Thrones. Other characters are just evil in that show, or do at least one terrible, cruel thing and try to live with the consequences of their actions. That's what moral ambiguity is. When a character, or Breaking Bad too, when a character does something that isn't necessarily all good or all bad, they're not all good or all bad. Saying a person is good, saying a person is evil is reductive. A good person can still do evil, and an evil person can still do good. That's moral ambiguity. But even then, saying someone is evil is reductive to the complexity of their lives. To argue there's moral complexity in a story is to argue the story engages with ideas that are complex, nuanced, complicated.
Thing about the show, if you look at the ending, and I'm kind of just realizing now as I'm making this video, many of the...
At Dr. Zulu Gaming super chatted $3.61. As someone who have watched Gundam 00, celestial beings' goals are good, but they still has to make morally ambiguous acts like forced interventions.
Exactly. That's the reality too. A lot of stories will have characters who do a lot of good things, who act in ways that are positive and constructive and warm, but also do things that are not so great along the way. That's the nature of the whole thing. You have to have characters who are nuanced, complex, and sometimes unambiguously cruel.
Aspects that were hated about the Game of Thrones ending was rooted in a pursuit of moral grayness.
No, that's not even remotely the case. But I'll let you explain what you think was the problem with the Game of Thrones ending first.
For years, audiences watched Jaime Lannister pursue a kind of redemption. Those audiences grew to like Jaime as a character because they wanted to see him become a hero. They wanted to see him choose goodness after having done so much bad, and also questionable. He did a lot of questionable. All of that is undermined when the showrunners decided to have him return to Cersei, knowing he will die a less than heroic death. For those audiences excited for heroic redemption, they felt as though they were robbed, and they were.
No, it's because the character arc was leading one direction, and they completely reversed the arc unnaturally at that point. Had the storyline led to a tragic fall organically, it would have been different. But the problem is they reversed course so quickly that it made no sense with the character who'd been written up until that episode. That's the problem. That's the concern. What you're describing as moral ambiguity is, in fact, what I like to call really fucking shitty writing. That's the problem. Shitty character writing. That's not moral ambiguity. It's just that D&D didn't know what the fuck they were doing and failed to write a character effectively when they had no more of when they lacked George's notes on what to write for the script that week. Bad writing is not morally gray. It's inconsistent writing.
Were all in the name of subversion. Daenerys.
No, it's all in the name of wrapping up so they can do a Star Wars movie, which they never got to do because fuck them.
There is too. I mean, personally, I saw it coming in season 1. I did not think she was going to be good in the end, but her shift to being bad is so rushed in those final moments.
Yes, but all that you're describing isn't moral ambiguity is the problem. It's bad character writing. What you're describing is not moral ambiguity. What you're describing is rushed character writing.
Are there hints that she could be a tyrant like her father? Of course there are. But they are only just hints meant to develop her as someone who is capable of overcoming the temptations of tyranny found in her lineage. Remember here, this is Game of Thrones. There are fans of the show who are rooting for Daenerys that name their children after the character. People got tattoos of these characters. Many viewers were rooting for Daenerys to be good in the end, even if she didn't get the throne. Having her swap into a tyrant in the final moments of the series, sure, could be choked up to bad writing without enough setup. We can have that debate separately, yes, but contextually, the tyrant swap thrives inside moral grayness. If she's morally gray, then she has an excuse. She's just serving her desires in that moment, and perhaps she's not all bad, right? Yeah, except not all bad in this case is...
Okay, so we're talking about a character who, throughout the whole show, colonizes cultures of black people as a white woman. She's a white savior, literally, in the narrative. That's meant to signal to us that she is colonizing the people around her. That's the signal to us that she has bad qualities to her. Her intentions are self-centered in nature. Don't forget, all these characters are trying to conquer another nation. There is no good thing about that. There is no good side to that. It's all unambiguously power-thirsty.
At Dylan Martin 2843 super chatted $3.61. Is the concept of anti-villain useful, or is that just over-categorizing?
I think it's a very useful term, I think, especially when discussing the, not moral ambiguity, but the flexible conditional morality of characters. And here's the thing also, I've referenced this book a couple times already in some streams, and in my writing, I keep it on hand because I like to reference it. Robert McKee's story. This is essential reading for anyone who wants to get into writing. The discussion of contradiction is a very important component of storytelling. Characters who have traits that contradict themselves is essential to creating dimension. Robert McKee's idea is that characters who have these contradictory elements are actually developing the sense of their personhood. At these extremes add dimension to a character. A character can be both capable of goodness and capable of vileness. And that's all relevant. That's all important to a character's development. And yeah, that is true. But again, that's not really present in Game of Thrones. The problem is with both Jaime and Daenerys is that their contradictory elements are not presented as opposition, but rather as a replacement. Not a contradiction in behavior, but as a substitution of what came before.
It's a smokescreen, mostly for bad writing. Moral grayness, sold as sophistication, allows the writers to have their cake and eat it too, but
No, that's just bad writing. You have no idea what you're talking about. And more importantly than that, you're giving an example of one of the worst writing choices in the entire show, while you're self-admitting it only comes into effect at the end of the show, while ignoring the ambiguity of what came before. Even the idea of struggling against temptation is itself moral grayness. That simple.
It is sugary. They get years of people rooting for Daenerys like she can rise above her bloodline.
Okay, it's not her bloodline. People are not genetically controlled by their past.
At Hayabusa Hayate super chatted $5. Ozymandias from Watchmen, I'd say is morally questionable. Noble idea, but such an awful way to go about it.
Oh, 100%.
Nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends.
Ever ends. What a great way of writing that scene. That's another great one too. I love the Ozymandias character in Watchmen. Again, moral ambiguity. He thinks he's completely justified, even though he struggles with the guilt of his actions, of the guilt of his consequences. And again, it's like how Ozymandias is in the original. Sorry, I'm just looking over here for on writing. Do I have it here? Is on writing here? It's on my shelf somewhere. I'll find it. It's on writing's here too. Oh no, it's right here. I found it. There we go. Yeah, I saw some in the comments mention on writing. Yeah, it's right here also. I also have On Writing by Stephen King. This is another essential text. Actually, this one might be more important than Story by Robert McKee. One of the great works of any text on writing is On Writing by Stephen King. This is, if you're going to get into media criticism or creative writing in any way, essential text. Essential. I keep it right here all the time. Again, another book I reference quite frequently when trying to look for ideas. Fantastic stuff. But yeah, no, it's all bullshit is what it is.
Jaime Lannister, too, can rise above his past, but then the writers torch the city and murder the innocents while calling it complexity, realism, and subversion.
No, it's not subversion, it's just bad writing. The problem is it's actually the opposite we're describing. It moves away from moral ambiguity and makes everything black and white. These characters either choose to be all good or all bad in the last seconds of a show that's been anchored so far in moral complexity.
Regardless of if the viewer wanted Daenerys to be a hero or a villain in the end, which is something the writers promise will happen, more on that part in a moment, but regardless of what the viewer wanted or was promised, the writers sucker punched everybody and then said this way of storytelling is more mature.
Everyone agrees that the ending of the Game of Thrones show, which is not based on George R.R. Martin's published works, because he hasn't finished the books yet, is bad. We all agree it's not good. That's life. None of this, however, addresses the very specific concerns I had about Jean Grey. Nothing you're saying is addressing the actual point.
All of you who are disappointed are just childish. See, writers throughout all of history make promises to their audiences. I think this is partially rooted in how we determine if something we experience, like a show or a movie, is good or bad. We are comparing the experience we have to the unspoken promises that a writer makes when they ask you.
If it's an unspoken promise, it's not a promise, is it?
To experience their work. Anton Chekhov put it bluntly more than a century ago, and now he's immortalized in writing philosophy. If you hang a rifle on the stage, it must go off.
Are you arguing that Anton Chekhov is an example of being against moral ambiguity? Really?
At AdhamWasher5320 super chatted $5. Is Lord of the Rings bad 'cause Frodo gives in to the ring at the end? That's morally gray.
Hell, the entire character of, hell, a bunch of characters. Boromir, great example of moral ambiguity there. Gollum, great example of moral ambiguity there. Honestly, even Saruman has shades of moral ambiguity before it kind of overtakes and kind of shows how ethically corrupt he is. Even the orcs demonstrate some moral ambiguity on like a basic level when Frodo and Sam are trying to hide with the orcs and overhear some conversations. Still.
You must display a reason for it. Making a promise you don't mean to keep is wrong because it's a betrayal of the audience's time.
Listen, real life fake wizard, if you're going to quote Anton Chekhov, I recommend you read A Doll's House. Great example of one of the most morally ambiguous plays of that era. The ending of that play specifically was so controversial upon its first performance, it caused ripples in society. A Doll's House was the picture of moral ambiguity for its time. Further, you're talking about writers like, say, Albert Camus with The Stranger, another example of moral ambiguity in a work where if a character is devoid of feeling, can they make a moral choice? If they feel nothing for anyone else, are they capable of making ethical decisions? You know, it's not as easy. Yeah, Doll's House is excellent. Doll's House is one of the... do I have that right here? I have a few... I have way too many books, like, within arm's reach I got from, I read in college, actually, for the first time. A lot of these. That's not, I can't find it. Yeah, but even still, that right there, an example that's major. You read even stuff like Oedipus, right? Oedipus Rex. Well, hell, let's use a recent example with the Odyssey, the original Odyssey. Odysseus is a very morally gray character. I would say more so in the epic than in the Nolan film. You see, in the Nolan film, he is this kind of forlorn guy, right? He's reflective of his own issues and pains. Whereas in the original epic, he's arrogant, and his arrogance is what undermines his journey. But he does care about people. He does love. He is capable of love. You see the harm in what he's in the ramifications of his actions, how it hurts Telemachus, how it hurts Penelope. But his actions are derived entirely due to his own arrogance, repeatedly.
And their emotion and their emotional investment.
Did he keep that in? Hang on, what?
Off. You must display a reason for it. Making a promise you don't mean to keep is wrong because it's a betrayal of the audience's time and their emotion and their emotional investment.
He kept a little flub in there. I know what that's like. Listen, I won't fall for too much for that. I've made that issue before too. I know Dead Domain has also. I was just making sure I wasn't mishearing it. Am I that tired? Jeez, hope not.
Stories, and I mean all stories, have setups and payoffs. The setup is not free for audiences. As we just said, audiences commit emotional investment, time, and sometimes money towards the setup of stories. And all is done so on the promise that these setups will eventually be paid off later when the ending inevitably...
What is your fucking point? Sorry.
At It's Your Boy 562 super chatted $3.14. Anything good or reading RN at the moment?
I know.
Just plowed through like 10 volumes of Vinland Saga.
Oh, hell
Absolutely
yeah.
Peak Season 3 is going to go so hard.
Oh, hell yeah. First off, Vinland Saga. Absolutely recommend that. Absolutely great work. Last few weeks have been a bit of a reading slump. I was rereading The Odyssey, the Emily Wilson translation of The Odyssey again. Just because after watching The Odyssey, the film, I wanted to kind of revisit it. Excellent, excellent work. I also revisited... It's been years since I read it, but it keeps coming up around me, so I wanted to revisit it. The original Peter Pan, because I mean Patrick Williams did his Hook video. That was the first one. Then there was that story about the Peter Pan stalker, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I might as well just revisit Peter Pan at this point. And the other night, I actually rewatched the Disney film. I'm not gonna lie. As a kid, I used to love that film so much. As an adult, it's not as powerful as I remember it being. I still like it, but I
At
don't
Concerningly
love it.
Wise Alligator super chatted $4.59. I think Nolan shorthanded Odysseus Folly with Elliot Page's character. Also, Vinland Saga is goated.
Yeah, Vinland Saga is goated. I don't know if I see that with the Elliot Page comparison. Because the thing with Odysseus is he is so arrogant and overcome with confidence in himself. And Elliot Page's character, Sineon, is more vulnerable. Oh yeah, Krim, we were actually watching your video before, a little bit of it. I told, if you see the chat, I actually linked to your video right there in the pinned comment there, Krim. Yeah. But Krim, I'm sure you go nuts over the comments about moral ambiguity in this video. Drive you crazy, I guarantee it. But I digress. Yeah, I'm probably going to wrap up soon because I'm trying to run on fumes. It's been a long couple of days. Did you see the 2003 Peter Pan movie? No, I watched the Disney one. I revisited that one. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. But I do love it, but I don't love it as much.
At Pandamani super chatted $5.
Very short, too.
At times well-executed subversion of expectations can be a delight. Entirely predictable movies are not necessarily the pinnacle of the art.
Very true. In fact, usually it's the opposite, unless it's inevitable tragedy. So, for example, Romeo and Juliet. In the very first couplet of the story, it tells you what's going to happen at the end. And that's to give you a sense of the inevitable tragedy of what's to unfold. And that technique, surprisingly, was also employed in Hereditary. The movie Hereditary sets up the inevitability of its final situation. And I think Ari Aster used that same tactic more subtly in Midsummer as well. The tragedy is foretold at the beginning, and that element of the Greek tragedy is used to kind of direct your attention to the inevitable outcome that is forthcoming. You can't avoid it, you can't stop it, you can't fight it. And because of that, it makes the inevitable resistance against destiny and fate all the more tragic and tension building. Because you think maybe there is a way to subvert it, but there isn't, Oh, I see. That makes sense. The guilt from that. That makes sense too. That's a decent example of a substitution, I'm not gonna lie. That makes more sense. Yeah, I get that now.
Brandon Sanderson teaches this as promise, progress, payoff. You promise early, establish a tone, overarching questions are asked, and the kind of story this will be is revealed. Then, you show progress on that promise in the middle so the audience feels movement towards answers. And then, it ends. There must be a payoff satisfying enough for the setups to have been worth participating in. And I think there's a craft to that, okay? Some writers...
What does any of this have to do with Jean Grey or moral ambiguity? Saying there's a promise established can apply with moral grayness as well. Like, what you're describing does not actually contradict the points at play. You're describing these ambiguous, grand ideas, but in reality, like, you're not actually bringing us closer to the promise of your own video. Like, here's the thing. You're saying, oh, writers have a promise they got to establish early on. They have to fit the tone and build to it. Well, you yourself are not building to your specific focus. You're dragging it out into these bizarre tangents that don't actually go anywhere. You're rambling. Stop rambling. Edit video. Get to the point faster. Like, hell, I sometimes cut out huge chunks of my writing in my videos. You know, that's the thing that people don't realize. I often over-record for a lot of videos. And then what I do when I'm editing, I actually chop out a lot of what I say. Because what I'll often do is I'll go off script. I'll just start yapping in the middle of the video. And sometimes I come with a good point. And other times I don't. And I cut that crap out and I leave the rest in. Or sometimes we don't. And it works. Who knows? So that's all that matters.
Can draw audiences in with setups and then they don't stick the landings. And that's most writers today. But conversely, there are writers that are terrible with setups, but the endings are very great. And those stories usually have very niche audiences. But if we zoom out, why? Why do audiences subject themselves to...
Is Sanderson considered a bit of a hack? No. No, Sanderson's not considered a hack. Sanderson's considered a great fantasy writer. He's considered... But here's the thing with Sanderson. He is a great fantasy writer with some big flaws in his style. He does over-describe fights to the point where it feels very mechanical. He sometimes gets lost in the weeds sometimes.
Dr. Zulu Gaming super chatted $3.61. Back in H. Bomber Guy's Sherlock's video, he said he cut out lines for brevity as contrast to Moffat's tendency to bloat his writing.
Yeah, exactly. It helps makes it more concise and focused. Supposedly, H. Bomber Guy will return, apparently. Apparently, his new video is coming. I don't know when, but it's coming. I'll probably drop everything and watch it when it comes out. So that week, I'm probably not going to have a video on time. Hell, this week I'm having trouble getting the video done on time. I've been delayed. Anyway, none of this says anything.
The risk of hearing bad stories. Why do we seek out stories at all? Because we do. We have for all of human history. All of life itself is a story. Around 335 BC, Aristotle said that tragedy, which in this instance is another term we're going to use for story, imitates a sequence of events that are both serious and complete.
Jesus Christ, you're halfway through your video and you've barely talked about the topic that you have on your thumbnail and the rest of the video. You've barely addressed it. Okay, that's enough internet for me then, I think. I think I've seen enough to know he has no point that's worth watching the rest of this for. Okay. Okay, it looks like we finally get back to track around here.
Those odds, we ourselves find that we may never be as strong as Superman, but we may, at least, try to do the right thing ourselves when things...
But that's a Superman story. Okay, whatever. Okay, get to the point, man.
Things are challenging in our own lives. Characters in stories, and not just superheroes here, we look to learn from. When you see Frodo carrying the ring up Mount Doom and failing...
Oh my god. No, dude. Okay, let me tell you this right now. You can also learn from the mistakes other characters make, not sources of inspiration. Not every story is inspiration smut. Sometimes characters fuck up and they ruin their lives, and you're meant to go, oh, that's a tragedy. But I see the steps that led to them ruining their lives. Don't want to do that. And you're meant to learn from their failures. Not all stories are meant... You read like Death of a Salesman, for example. Louis Loman, was that his name? Or whatever his freaking name is, the main character of Death of a Salesman. He fails at life completely. Everything about his story is a total, absolute failure. He is a depressing, sad sack who goes nowhere. And it's tragic.
At Pandamani super chatted $14.41. Here's to getting to your daily goal.
Ah, thank you so much. Did we make it? We just made the goal. Heck yeah. That is excellent, especially considering that some of my videos have been they're in escrow with earnings right now. A couple videos got content claimed recently, and I challenged it, and I think it was a bot that did it because there's no response for like weeks now. The same thing happened with my Zardoz video. The bots signal it, and then the company just ignores it and forgets it's even there. They're completely detached from the copyright checks now, it seems like. Except for Warner Brothers. They're bizarrely on point sometimes, which is irritating. But everyone else it seemed to be out to lunch, basically. Thank you so much there. We made goal. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. But yeah, no, I don't know if I have the patience to deal with more of this guy. He's halfway through his video and he's just using his same examples he always uses. That's the problem with this guy. He never engages with the ideas of the specific art he's talking about. It's quite terrible. It's quite terrible. Anyway, speaking of this, I think we're going to wrap up for tonight. A couple last minute things I want to discuss real quick. Recently, I was looking at some new content to bring out to y'all. I have something coming up soon, including at least 2 collaborations with other creators coming up soon. That'd be kind of cool to see. I'm not sure when they'll be out. I'm not sure when they're coming, but they're coming all right. Also, I want to give another recommendation real quick to a video I mentioned on Blue Sky, but I think this creator is really talented. We are mutuals online, aside from Krim, obviously, because Krim's also fantastic. And aside from all my usual friends who show up on stream. One, oh, they're not getting recommended all this bullshit from these guys. I have to say, don't recommend the channel Real Life Fake Wizard to me. That's going to be a problem. Really good video that helped me reshape a script I'm working on is this one by this channel. You might even be in the comments section right here, so take a bow if you are. Infinite Snow Productions. This vid kind of helped redirect the script I'm currently working on. Some really good stuff here. Infinite Snow Productions doesn't upload it often, but when they do, it's really good. Yeah, only a few here. A lot of stuff on the Snow White one's really good. A lot of Lupin stuff. The Man Bad Horror one was pretty good. And this one they did recently on Wicked. I recommend you all watch it. It's a very good video analyzing how Disney has repeatedly over the years tried to copy the success of Wicked, but never quite got it right in ways that are increasingly bad. And though it's not on the thumbnail, a lot of the video is focused on everyone's favorite Wizard of Oz adaptation, Oz the Great and Powerful. I think just saying that name gave Jack Saint like a fucking like panic attack from across the pond. Oh yeah, no, there's some rough stuff there. But yeah, no, that's the stream for tonight. This week, there's 2 videos I'm working on. Hopefully, they'll both be done on time. But they're both X-Men related, so we got that going for me again. People y'all tend to like my X-Men videos, so a couple more X-Men related stuff is coming your way. And hopefully you dig it, you know? Hopefully, if all goes well. So thank you everyone so much for joining me yet again on one of my little adventures here. I hope to hear from all of you soon when I put out my next couple of videos. And yeah, honestly, Ben Riley here. Question in chat real quick for everyone still here. Ben Riley, what are your thoughts on Ben Riley? You think he's a good character? I like Ben Riley personally, but what are you going to do? Anyway, thank you so much everyone for watching. I will see you all very soon. Bye.